Adrian N. Breitfelder, City Clerk, you are hereby directed to call a regular session of the City Council to be held on Monday, June 17th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. in the historic Federal Building for the purpose of conducting such business that may properly come before the City Council.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to a regular session of the Dubuque City Council for June 17th, 2024. As a reminder to our participants, you can provide in-person input or virtual audio and written input during the sections of the agenda where public input is accepted. Input options during the live meeting include: in-person attendees may approach the podium when the mayor asks if there's any public input on the item they would like to speak to. Remote attendees can log into GoToMeeting using the login links, phone numbers, and access code that appear on the broadcast and live stream and posted on the front page of the meeting agenda. This option includes audio input and written chat input. If you are participating via computer, indicate which item you would like to speak to in the chat function or note that you would like to speak during the appropriate section. If you are participating via phone, indicate which item you would like to speak to during the appropriate section. All comments, whether in person or virtual, must be accompanied by a name and address. Additionally, written public input is accepted by contacting the City Council directly from the city's webpage at www.cityofdubuque.org/councilcontacts and through the City Clerk's office email at ctyclerk@cityofdubuque.org. This information will be reiterated during the meeting. Attendance for the session is as follows: Mayor Kavanaugh.
Here.
Council members Farber.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Resnick.
Here.
Roussel.
Here.
Sprank.
Here.
Wethel.
Here.
City Manager Van Milligan.
Here.
And City Attorney Brumwell.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Kavanaugh, I will turn it over to you for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Adrian. I invite all who are able to please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our presentation tonight is B Branch Creek Railroad Culverts and Pedestrian Tunnel Project Award Presentation.
All right. Mike, I believe you're up. Or Steve.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. So I'll be quick. I'm going to introduce you to the two people that lost more sleep during this project than Darren, Gus, and myself. So this is really what brought the project home. And I don't know if you all caught my memo, but the one thing I like to point out is we've calculated that $7 in storm damage, flood damage specifically, will be avoided by the residents for every dollar invested in this construction project. And a few Mondays ago, we had a once in 50-year storm event, and our investment paid off. So we're already seeing dividends with that. With that, I'll turn it over to Mike Jansen and Eric Veith from Strand.
Thanks, Steve. Mike Jansen, Strand Associates, 900 Jackson Street, Suite 110. I'm joined by my colleague, Eric Veith, and on behalf of Strand and our entire team of consultants that worked on the B Branch project, that consider this a privilege to present the ACEC, or the American Council of Engineering Companies, awards to the city tonight. So I'll ask Eric if you'd like to say a few words.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Eric Veith, Strand Associates, 910 West Wingra, Madison, Wisconsin. So I've been a project engineer and project manager on the Upper B Branch Creek and the Railroad Culvert Crossing and Ped Crossing since about 2013. So I haven't been involved quite as long as Mike. Very grateful to have been part of your city team. Just an unbelievable team, unbelievable project, career type project for me. I've been in consulting for 20 years, and I'll say that the staff that you have in your engineering department are the hardest working and most dedicated staff that I've worked with in all my years. I do want to recognize, this was a very successful project. I do want to recognize Tricon Construction. They did a great job. All of the sub-consultants that were involved with Strand Associates. And lastly, I would just like to thank city leadership and city staff for putting your trust in Strand Associates since 2008.
All right, thanks, Eric. So this award is about the city's leadership, persistence, and commitment. My viewpoint is coming from a community advocate, business leader, and someone who has firsthand knowledge from a project engineering perspective. Given many presentations about this project and all the B Branch projects over many years, it's a unique urban revitalization. I like to tell the nerdy stories about all the statistics and the details about the project, but I also like to talk and remind people that the core purpose of that project is flood mitigation. I'd like to talk about the journey from expectations that were gathered through community engagement and the understandable fears and concern for not making it any worse, and how that changed, that mindset changed to optimism through outcomes. You know, a couple weeks ago, we had a pretty severe rainfall event, and just as an example. And I did what engineers do. On Tuesday morning early, I drove around and saw how it performed. And it performed well. The other story I like to tell in these presentations is a lot of people ask, how does a project like this happen? And I said, it doesn't happen without leadership. And I'll start with the city's leadership. The forward thinking of the leaders, the vision, and I'm talking about this council. I'm talking about past council members, former Mayor Roy Buell, my friend Kevin Lynch, and the late Joyce Connors, who brought so much passion to this project. I'm talking about City Manager Van Milligan, Terry Goodman, to have the vision and the persistence and the commitment to this project throughout. And I think that leadership directly translated to the city staff that was responsible for making it happen. I'll begin with Darren Meering, a mainstay, committed, persistent. He led the implementation along with Gus Sahoyas. Steve Brown. Steve brings that, did you think of that alternative? And he brings such an attention to detail and such an emphasis on operation and maintenance through durability. Chris Lyons, tremendously valuable, his design input, and did an excellent job, construction observation, along with Tom Freund, who is retired. Marie Ware, who recognized the value of the linear park of the Upper B Branch and the connection to Comiskey Park. And there's many, many others, but I only have a few minutes that I can't name them all, so I apologize. But all that is the relentless dedication and continuity of your city personnel. So it is with great pleasure, Mayor Kavanaugh, that Eric and I would like to present to the city of Dubuque. There's actually 3 awards. 2024 ACEC Iowa Grand Prize Award, which the city has already received the plaque. 2024 ACEC Wisconsin Best of State Award, and the 2024 ACEC National Engineering Excellence Award. Thank you.
Well, Mike and Eric, thank you so much. I mean, I'll speak for everybody that it is an honor to receive these for the city of Dubuque, and we really appreciate all your work on it and the work of everybody who was a part of this. It is an incredibly impressive project. I can't even tell you how many people want to talk about it, how many people want to visit it, and anytime you get a chance to go on a tour with Darren Meering of the B Branch, you take it, because it is so much fun to hear all those details that you just talked about. So Mike, thank you. And on behalf of everyone, let's cheer on the leaders that have all been a part of this. So thank you.
Picture time, picture.
Say, hang on, wait. Steve's got a phone.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks. All right, thanks, guys.
Next is proclamations. We have the Juneteenth National Independence Day.
Okay, and I believe we have Antonio Muzon from the MFC here to accept this proclamation, so invite you up if you have any words to say before you.
Hello, everyone. I am joined here by board member Ms. Claudette Bees. As stated before, this idea of equity simply means creating spaces and opportunity for all people to have access to thrive and reach their full potential. Historically, as we know, in predominantly white communities, Black and brown people, we don't have often opportunities to see ourselves represented in diverse spaces. I'm extremely excited and proud to say this weekend was a very long weekend for the Multicultural Family Center, and we were able to pack Jackson Park with nearly 1,000 people from our community. Connected to community resources and booths, sharing their talents and their gifts. We had a very, very competitive talent show happening. People were able to just highlight themselves as Black leaders in our community, and it was extremely empowering. This year is the first year that our city and our community is recognizing Juneteenth as a paid holiday. I think I'm still working because I love what I do, but that's still progress, right? So on behalf of the Multicultural Family Center and on behalf of many of our Black and brown members in the community and everyone within our community, I just want to say thank you for your continued efforts and allowing all of us to continue to move forward collectively as a community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Antonio, thank you for the work that you're doing, and it was an incredible event this weekend. I'm really excited to hear over 1,000 people were there. That is fantastic, because it was so much fun, and everybody was having a great time celebrating each other. So thank you for putting it all together and being a part of it, and Ms. Bees for your years and years of dedication to this effort. So thank you very much for being here. Well, City of Dubuque proclamation. Whereas on June 19th, 1865, more than 2 years after President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, enslaved Americans in Galveston, Texas finally received word that they were free from bondage. And whereas Juneteenth commemorates this day, when those who were formerly enslaved began to build new lives and new traditions that we honor today. And whereas Juneteenth is the oldest nationally celebrated commemoration of the ending of slavery in the United States and commemorates African American achievement and reminds us of our willingness to learn and emerge from our darkest moments with hope, purpose, and resolve. And whereas on this commemoration, we recommit ourselves to the work of equity, equality, and justice, and we celebrate more than a century of African American resilience in the city of Dubuque and beyond. And whereas on June 17th, 2021, President Biden signed the bill making Juneteenth the 11th American federal holiday and the first to obtain legal observance as a federal holiday since Martin Luther King Jr. Day was designated in 1983. And whereas since 2023, the city of Dubuque has recognized Juneteenth as a paid holiday. And whereas Dubuque's Multicultural Family Center hosted a Juneteenth celebration weekend from Friday, June 14th through Sunday, June 16th at Jackson Park. Now, therefore, I, Brad M. Kavanaugh, Mayor of the City of Dubuque, Iowa, on behalf of the City Council staff and residents of Dubuque, do hereby recognize Wednesday, June 19th, 2024, as Juneteenth National Independence Day in the City of Dubuque, Iowa, and urge residents to support and endorse the practice and policy of equity and freedom for all.
That feels like a clap moment.
It is. Have a great night.
We will now move on to consent items. At this time, anyone participating in the meeting in person who would like to discuss one of the consent items, please approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any in-person input and state your name and address. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. Please state the item you would like removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion and consideration, and consent items can be found on pages 2 through 6 of the agenda.
Thank you, Adrian. Do we have anyone here in chambers who would like to remove any of the consent items for separate discussion this evening? I'm seeing no one here. Anyone virtually? Thank you.
No input.
All right. Then I'll bring it back to the table then. Yeah, Ms. Wethel.
I would like to hold number 9 for separate discussion, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. President.
I move to receive and file the documents, adopt the resolutions, and deal with the consent items as recommended, except for number 9.
Second by Farber.
A motion by Resident and a second by Farber. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprank.
Aye.
Jones. Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0. Item number 9, Ms. Wethel, please.
I would like to abstain from vote as my father
Rick Dickinson is the president and CEO of Greater Dubuque Development Corporation, for which the contracted services will be voted upon.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Wethel.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Jones.
I move that we receive and file the documents and approve item number 9.
Second.
Got a motion by Jones and a second by Resnick. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprague.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
That motion passes 6-0.
We will move on to boards and commissions. We have applicant review for the Arts and Cultural Affairs Advisory Commission, the Board of Library Trustees, Cable Television Commission, Civic Center Advisory Commission, Equity and Human Rights Commission, Historic Preservation Commission, Housing Appeals and Mediation Board, Investment Oversight Advisory Commission, Long Range Planning Advisory Commission, Park and Recreation Advisory Commission, Zoning Advisory Commission, and Airport Zoning Commission.
Thank you, Adrian. We have apparently reached commission season, so here we are with lots of different openings. So I'm going to go through this as efficiently as possible, but basically I'm going to be asking for any input on any one of these different commissions. So I do want to go through them individually so people have the opportunity to do that. First up, we have the Arts and Cultural Affairs Advisory Commission. We have 2 applicants. Do we have anyone to speak to these? I'm sorry, 3 applicants. I missed one on the back there. Do we have anyone to speak to these applications for the Arts and Cultural Advisory Commission this evening? And I'll just, unless you say so, I'm just going to assume no virtual input. How's that sound? Okay. All right. For the second commission, we have the Board of Library Trustees, and we have 1 applicant for the term there. Do we have anyone here to speak to that application? Okay. Cable Television Commission, we have 1 opening and 1 applicant. Do we have anyone to speak to that application? Seeing no one. Civic Center Advisory Commission, we have 2 3-year terms open and 2 applicants. Do we have anyone here to speak to those applications this evening? Okay. Equity and Human Rights Commission, we have 2 3-year terms and we have 4 applicants for that commission. Do we have anyone here to speak to those applications this evening? Okay, seeing no one. Historic Preservation Commission, we have 1 3-year term and 1 applicant. Do we have anyone to speak to that application this evening? Okay. Housing and Appeals and Mediation Board, 1 applicant and 1 term open. Do we have anyone to speak to that application? Okay. Investment Oversight Advisory Commission, 1 3-year term open there. Do we have, and 1 applicant. Do we have anyone to speak to that application this evening?
And Mr. Mayor, I will just note that Ms. Velasky did submit written input. That's included with the agenda item.
Thank you, Adrian. All right, a few more here. Long Range Planning Advisory Commission, 1 opening, 1 applicant. Anyone here to speak to that application? Yes, yeah, if you wouldn't mind, just please come up and just give us your name and your address and say what you like about that application, please.
Hello, everybody. My name is Aaron Miller. I live on 75 Fremont Avenue right here in Dubuque. I actually participated in the City Life program just because I wanted to kind of get involved and, help out with something, kind of be a part of something bigger than just me and be able to provide input. I feel like I got good ideas and I'm not afraid to talk and speak my mind. So really excited, a little nervous, but definitely interested and definitely wishing, definitely planning to give it my all and try my best and being on time and all that good stuff that comes with it and learning a lot. I'm really excited to learn, to feel kind of green again, but just mainly to help the community.
Well, Aaron, thank you very much for your application and for your comments. I think we'll take that under advisement, so thank you very much. All right, next up is Park and Recreation Advisory Commission. We have 1 opening and 2 applicants for that position. Anyone here to speak to those applications this evening? Okay. Next up is the Zoning Advisory Commission. We have 1 opening and 1 applicant. Anyone here to speak to that one? And then last but not least, Airport Zoning Commission, 1 opening, 1 application. Anyone to speak to that application? Okay. Well, thank you again for the comments we did receive, and we can move on to public hearings, please, Adrian.
At this time, anyone participating in the meeting in person who would like to discuss one of the public hearing items, please approach the podium when the mayor asks if there's any in-person input for the public hearing you would like to speak to and state your name and address. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function and state your question or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there's any virtual input for the public hearing you would like to speak to. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. Public hearing number 1 is request to rezone Millstone Drive.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I move to receive and file the communications and further move that the requirement that a proposed ordinance be considered and voted on for passage in 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended.
A motion by Jones and a second by Wethel. Wally, please.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and City Council. Planning Services Director Wally Warnemont. As mentioned, the request before you tonight is a rezoning from R1 single-family residential to R3 moderate-density multi-family residential. This will be located at the end of Millstone and Harvest View Estates. Included in your packet, we have a vicinity map. This map shows the current zoning layout of the property. So the subject property is outlined in that black and white hash mark outline. The area shaded in yellow is the current R1 single-family zoning portion of it. And then you can see there's a little tail that goes up to the cul-de-sac. That brown area is R3 moderate-density multi-family residential. The subject property is 1.6 acres in area. It's a vacant lot. It has frontage along Millstone Drive. It is irregularly shaped property. We do go through the zoning history. Prior to 1975, the area was identified as single family. However, over the decades, it was agricultural. It was part of the Hillby Farm being farmed for many years before it was being redeveloped into the Harvest View Estates development. And in 2011, the property rezoned from R1 single family rezoned to R1 single family and R3 moderate density multifamily residential. Included in your packet, we have both the R1 and R3 zoning regulations, and we always do a side-by-side comparison. So let's see the difference between the R1 and the R3. The R3 will allow townhouses with a maximum of up to 6 dwelling units, duplexes, multifamily dwelling with a maximum of 6 dwelling units, and maternity group homes are the only differences between the R1 and the R3 zoning. Utilities in the area, it's adequately available to serve the property. There was a lot of discussion during the public hearing with regards to traffic. Harvest View Drive and Millstone Drive are defined as local streets, and Asbury Road is a minor arterial. There will be 7 average daily traffic trips anticipated per residential unit. And you'll find out later on, they talked about a maximum of 6 dwelling units, so about 42 average daily traffic trips. And when we say a traffic trip is if someone's leaving from their home and going to work, that's 1. When they leave work and come back home, that's 2. So it's not round trip, it's just going one way. And then Harvest View Drive, Millstone Drive, and Asbury Roads are designed to accommodate the additional traffic. We talk about the surrounding development is already single family and multifamily. Our comprehensive plan has identified multiple goals, and one of which is to promote infill and mixed-use development, and then also to encourage a mix of housing affordable for all segments of Dubuque's population throughout the community, including those options who might be saving for their first home. There was some discussion at the public hearing with regards to public notification. The area shaded in yellow are all the properties that received a notice from our office. The red outline is our 200-foot notification boundary from the property. So everyone in that area received a notice from our office. We did create a public input map. This map that you see here, which has been included in your packet, shows those neighbors that either spoke in opposition at the meeting, they provided some opposition in writing, they have general inquiries in respect to the site. And at the public hearing, by a vote of 3-2, the Zoning Advisory Commission recommends the City Council approve the request with the following condition: that the property is limited to 6 total dwelling units, regardless of future subdivisions, and a supermajority vote is needed for City Council to approve the request. Since this meeting, a lot of discussion has happened with regards to, is there a concept plan? You know, what do they mean about just having 6 units at the location? Is that 6 single-family homes? Is that 3 duplexes? Is that up to 6-unit apartment building? And included, which was just added recently, if I can get to it here. You can see it up there. So this was provided by the engineer who's representing the architect. This shows the property with regards to having 3 duplexes. There's a offset cul-de-sac that will be accessed off the existing cul-de-sac. That area meets our requirements for fire and emergency access. This would go through the development review team for the property.
And so I just want to leave this up here because I know a lot of neighbors had concerns of how the property would be laid out with regards to the density or development of the site. That's all I have, unless you guys have any questions at this time. I know the applicant is present to answer any questions, but I'll always be available for questions.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Wally.
Yep.
We are in a public hearing to consider a request from Pete Reddy Origin Design to rezone Millstone Drive from R1 Single Family Residential to R3C Moderate Density Multifamily Residential with conditions, and the Zoning Advisory Commission is recommending approval with the following condition: that the property is limited to 6 total dwelling units regardless of future subdivisions. So I'll ask now if we have any public input on this. And before we do public input, here's what I'll ask. We need to make sure we have name and address are the two things. And, in our history with rezoning, we tend to have quite a bit of public input, which we really appreciate. We need to have that for public hearings, and we want to make sure that we hear from everyone. I am going to limit everybody to 5 minutes, 30 minutes total per public hearing. So make sure that we're trying to keep within that time frame. The only other thing that I ask is more of a request than anything else. Try to keep all comments respectful, keep them civil. We're here to discuss this matter. Try to stick to the facts as much as you possibly can. Please try to avoid personal attacks. There's just no reason for them. They're not going to help your argument in this particular case. So that would be the request that I have. So please come on up. And if you're ready, I see another one back there. You can come up and stand kind of close to the wall, and then we can just keep it moving. Great. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name's Pat Treaty with Origin Design, 137 Main Street.
Sorry, Pat.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Dubuque, Iowa. Here on behalf of the developers, and just wanted to make a couple of brief points. First of all, Wally, thank you for the introduction and for the description. Wanted to just point out the fact that the front portion of this property, shaded in green, is already zoned R3. And really, we're focusing on the south portion of the property and asking that you rezone that from R1 to R3 with conditions. We ask that you go along with the Planning Commission's vote to approve the rezoning. And the final point really is, the developers are excited to bring these units to market, helping the council take a step, albeit a small step, to providing additional housing on the city of Dubuque. One of the questions that was brought up during the input portion of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting was how would a fire truck be able to access this? So we spent a little bit of time trying to figure out how this could lay out. And what you see is a 24-foot wide driveway. It'll be a private drive leading back to 3 buildings, each one of them being a duplex, so 2 units each. And that is a standard size cul-de-sac, which a fire truck can maneuver around with some issue, but it happens within the city of Dubuque all the time. So this is just a really quick concept. The size of these is approximately equal to the unit that is shown at the very top of the page. It's kind of cut off, but we mimicked that one to show what 3 units and approximately what size would be able to be accommodated by the property. So I'll limit my comments to that, and we will be here if you have any follow-up questions for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat, for your comments. And there's a switch on the, if it's too tall, sometimes you can move it down. There's a little switch to the right. Wally's coming up to help you here real quick.
You're too tall.
I'm the one, I always do this,
You
I'm
always
sorry.
do this. I always got to be that one. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. Jackie Baumhover, 2680 Millstone Drive. And I apologize for the sweaty and casual appearance here. I was coming from my son's baseball game, so thank you for accommodating me. 2680 Millstone Drive is probably the townhouse that will have the most impact because I'm right at the end of the cul-de-sac. I was not able to make it to the previous meeting due to another baseball game. This is the joys of being a single mom. But nonetheless, right, I wanted to come and at least share some of the initial thoughts and concerns that I had. Well, I'm definitely not opposed, right, to developing it and putting something in back there, although it would be really nice to keep it just an open field for dogs and kids to play baseball. I totally hear the desire, right, and the need. My concerns are, right, and as we in the previous conversation had brought up, is that Millstone Drive itself, once you get past the single-family homes into the townhouses, becomes single driveways, right? So while the street doesn't necessarily narrow, it's the same size street throughout all of Millstone, you take all of the cars that would normally fit into a single-family home driveway, and they become on the street. So we've seen, right, fire trucks, we've seen Lowe's delivery trucks, we've seen ambulances, snow plows struggle already to get through Millstone Drive once you pass the mailboxes and turn into the townhomes. Actually, not that long ago, a Lowe's semi was doing a delivery and ended up going over the curb into someone's property, damaging, right, the front lawn of the property in order to back out and maneuver around. And again, it's not because of the street size, it's the amount of activity, the amount of cars that are on Millstone due to the single driveways of the townhomes that are there presently. So my concern, right, is, and again, I'm the one with the trampoline on the end there. You can tell which house has the kids, right? I'm the one with the trampoline on the end. I'm well aware, and I had spoke to the previous owner of that lot, right, that my fence, which is not a permanent fence, actually goes over my property line. It's not a permanent fence intentionally because the previous owner, it's not mine, right? But the previous owner was like, I've been there for 7 years, and he was like, use it, please. I mow it, I take care of it, I make sure it's plowed and the sidewalks are shoveled, and in turn, right, I have a little garden there, and my kids and my dogs have a little extra room to play. I'm well aware that regardless of what we do, my fence will have to move. That's why it's not a permanent fence. But I think the piece that I'm most concerned about is the 24 inches wide, and what I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, the green in this picture, is that green space between the road or the proposed street on either side? Can anyone answer that?
So, Jackie, the way this will work is...
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. You ask that question, and
Got
we
it.
will note that question.
Okay, great.
And then somebody will get the chance to answer it for you if one of us asks it afterwards.
Oh,
So-
perfect. Thanks. Sorry. Newbie. Okay, so that's a question. The other question that I am, and I've not seen it brought up, but there is, and Mayor Kavanaugh, I did send an email. I don't know if it was supposed to be to you or to whom, but I did send an email with some photos. We have serious water problems right now that come off of because of the berm on the south side that matriculate down through Millstone. The property lines on that black, I wish I could share a screen. I didn't think about that. The property lines in black, right, have a built-in trench. That built-in trench leads to a massive 10-foot wide drainage pit right where that driveway is going to go. In fact, the proposed driveway goes directly over it. So I just want to, one, understand what the implications of that are for all 18 townhomes, because I dug, everything drains down to me. So I dug out a pit and put in corrugated pipe to help drain down to the drainage pit, but we get flooded every time there's a heavy rain. So if that's not graded right, if there's too much concrete, not enough, right, like it's going to be a problem. Not only that, but the snow removal, again, in here, if that's all green space, right, okay, but if not, then what happens to the snow from this private drive? Does it get piled into my yard? Does it get piled into the retirement community? Some of these things are just things that I would like to make sure that we consider before this all looks great and it sounds wonderful. It's more of the granular questions that I'm hoping that we can ask. In addition, if we can if we can make conditions that say that this is limited to 6, why couldn't we make a condition to say that this is limited to 2 or 1? I just would be curious, right, given I understand the desire for more homes, right, to be built and affordable homes. However, it's a pretty pricey neighborhood. And so I don't exactly know how much these homes are planning to go for, but one of our townhouses in the area was up for $200,000. And I don't know, as a single mom, I wouldn't have been able to afford it when I was first looking for my first starter home. So again, just something to think about and consider. There's a lot of kids in the neighborhood on a really busy street as it already is, with the congestion and the parking. To add potentially 3 cars to each of those 6 residential or those 6 town duplexes is a lot. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank
for your
you,
comments.
appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Mark Alens. I live at 2505 Wheatland Drive. I've originally had the addressing of that I was against the zoning from R1 to R3 prior to knowing that the acceptance of the zoning commission was conditional to just being R3. And at this time, we see a offering of what I assume to be pretty much a suggested design. So the maximum amount of people and so forth for that 1.6 is probably not too overwhelming versus probably having 2, 3, maybe 4 homes. And this is probably a more reasonable design, and it looks like I think something could work out very well. Originally, I stated in my comments that we chose this to all be R1 when we purchased our properties and so forth, and we didn't want higher density to move in to change the value of our living. But in this case here, I can understandably see the layout of the conditional R3 as being something that can be worked with. I guess I'm not sure if this is public street or private street. I believe it was talked about being private. I don't know what that is today. Either way, I just have concerns that it's kept up and taken care of and so forth. Originally, I stated that many years ago, we always talked about that landlocked area would be a nice place for a kiddie park. And due to its location, it would have been, but we do have one down on the other side of our whole subdivision already, so. So all I'd like to say is, I guess at this point, I am no longer opposed really to, with conditions of R3 in this manner, if that is held to that and it doesn't change tomorrow, is my concern. So other than that, that's all I got to say. And I just want to say thanks to the Streets Department in the manner that they have done Asbury Road so quickly and so unpainful in 4.5 days. I mean, those guys, and those I think are all city crews, I believe. So I just want to say they did one heck of a job. So they need a thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hi, everyone. I'm Linda Anderson, and I live at 2668 Millstone Drive.
Linda, go ahead and pull the mic down just a little bit. There you go.
Okay,
Thank
Linda
you so much.
Anderson, 2668 Millstone Drive. And as of right now, when I look out my patio door, that's where this development will be. And I guess I had a couple things. I had to write them down because I'll forget. Originally, when I bought my property, I was told there was going to be a park, and I don't know where that story came from, but there's been different people that have said the same thing, and I don't know how that changed, because that would have been city property, I would think, originally. But a couple of things that we talked about at the zoning about being a landlocked, where right now the last woman that came up, this cars on the street, I've got a normal car, but if you've got, I don't know how they're going to get semis back there to get the supplies back there. It's not going to work without it being a total mess, in my opinion. Wondering if it's going to be a one-story, two-story, three-story, how that's going to proceed. It's going to look a lot differently being a three-story. Drainage, with this last storm that someone just talked about, my backyard, and I walked a lot of yards behind us, was already soaked. So something's not right with that land that's there right now. It's not draining correctly. It's draining into our property. I have a feeling the owners are here, they're developers. No one's taking care of that property right now. The grass is probably, I don't know if this is the right place to call. Give me a number and I'll call them, but it's pretty high. Maybe we'll even have bears back there if we're not careful. So anyway, that's what I had. I do oppose this. I understand. I live in one of the townhomes. It was one of my first homes that I bought, so I do understand the concept, but I think we need to think about all the ins and outs of it all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Linda, for your comments. Any others this evening on this matter? And just so everybody's aware, once we stop the public input, then it comes back here and there's no more public input after that point. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that. Okay? All right. Seeing no further input, anything from you, Corey? Or?
Robert and Jennifer Weber did submit written input. That's been included with the agenda item.
Great. Thank you, Adrian. Okay. All right. I'll bring it back to the table then. I'll say, first of all, thank you to everyone for your comments and for the discussion there. So I'll open it up for any questions and discussion on our end. Mr. Jones.
Yes, it's going to be a challenge for a while during the construction phase. There'll be a lot of traffic, heavy traffic, gaining access to the site and bringing materials in. And that's pretty much true in any neighborhood that's growing or expanding. There's a construction project just up the street on Wheatland that's been going on for some time. That's brought a lot of trucks up and down with material. And that's something you're going to have to learn to live with, I'm afraid. Question came up, should it be a park? And someone wrote to us about that too. And maybe it should have been, but it's not going to be. The owner isn't us, first of all. To make a park, we have to own it. We don't own the property. The city of Dubuque has never owned that property, to my knowledge. And typically when we see a neighborhood park developed, in the initial development plans, there's land set aside and donated to the city to create the park, and then it's up to us to find the money to build it out. And that's been a challenge sometimes to do that in a timely fashion. So anyhow, it's not going to be a park. We don't own it. And it takes me to my next thought. The owners of the property have every right to do something with it. And it's not reasonable for us as a city council to say, no, you can't build anything there ever. The property was bought to be developed, and this was kind of the odd piece. It was a little less easy to develop, from my experience in some building services over the years. I think that the Zoning Advisory Commission is handing us a very reasoned discussion, consideration of everybody's concerns, and limited the scope of the project to a point where it's not going to be harmful to the neighborhood. Please don't anybody anywhere in the city think that we've engineered the city to manage a 3.5-inch rain in a 50-minute period like we had a week and a half ago. That's just not manageable. Things are going to pond, things are going to flood. If we've got decent drainage systems around your home and sumps to get it out to the curb, maybe you got a fighting chance. But the B branch isn't built for that. The sanitary storm sewers around the community are not built for that. However, you can expect, generally, when a piece of property is redeveloped, to have the stormwater management improved. It's part of the engineering task that the designers are going to have, is to submit a plan that shows how the stormwater will be managed, where it's going to go, where it's going to collect, and where it's not going to go. So hopefully my expectation is that would get better for you, almost no matter what. So I get that nobody wants their neighborhood to change. This is, in my view, a pretty positive change. I've got 31 years of driving fire trucks into impossible locations. This one's not impossible at all. This is just a city street. And there's many of them that are smaller, skinnier, more congested than this. I've driven it a number of times looking at this project. And I have a family over in Wheatland Drive, so I've been real familiar with the neighborhood and the subdivision. I think we've got a proposal here that makes sense to the community and doesn't harm the folks that live there, I appreciate your comments tonight and your concerns. My expectation is that in 3 or 4 years or less, you won't even notice that it's there. You're going to have some more neighbors, and that ain't a bad thing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Jones? Ms. Wethel?
Thought I would just try and have us answer some of the questions brought forward by our public here tonight. Wally, I believe Mr. Ayler's question, Ayler's, I think I have that right. The question was whether it's a public or private street. I think you said it's a private street, is that right?
Yes, based on the way the development is laid out, and Mr. Reed can correct me if I'm wrong, it's our standard public street for acceptance is 50 feet of street right-of-way and either a 26 or a 27 or 31 or 27-foot wide street. This will be a 24-foot wide drive aisle, so it'll function as a private driveway that goes into a cul-de-sac that meets our requirements for a turnaround by our fire apparatus truck. And then the way this is designed and layout for the development, there's probably going to be, I assume, a homeowner association that we collect fees that would take over maintenance of that private driveway for the access. So the development actually sets up very nicely for a private street. I'm not ruling out that they could dedicate it as a public street. It just depends how they want to lay it out. But based on the size, the design, the condition, the lay the development's going to have, it's most likely going to be a private street.
Thank you. And Ms. Baumover's question regarding the area in this Exhibit 1 origin, if the green is actually going to be, I guess, yard or green, it looks like that would maybe be the setup. Is that correct?
Yeah, that would be more of a question for the applicant and the developer, but most of the time when we get with impervious area of the site, it's going to be the footprint of the buildings and the driveways, and the majority of the area will be green space. 80% of the site is required. They could cover up to 80% of the site with impervious area. However, with this development and the managing of stormwater flow through the site, we'll go through the development review team. Most likely that area will be green space, but I can't speak to that 100% without the applicant agreeing with that. So.
And as it was a concern, could you just speak a little bit more about the process we go through when it comes to looking at rainwater and runoff? So
with this development, it's going to require a site plan. We'll get an application prepared by an engineer with regards to stormwater calculations. The site plan will be submitted to our development review team. That development review team is consisted of the planning department, the fire department, engineering, water, and building services, or inspection and constructions division. I'm still getting used to saying that. For our review, and through that process, we look at all code requirements, how they manage stormwater. The site has a regional detention basin, as you can talk about with stormwater issues. Obviously, they don't want a stormwater issue on their own site, so they're going to manage it through the site. Right now, currently, as stuff hits the impervious areas, they'll direct the flow to a catch basin, and it could be piped, just like what Councilmember Jones said. A lot of times, sites are actually improved as the development comes on, as opposed to an undeveloped site for that. So the fire department will review the emergency access. Most likely, there's going to be a private main that will go through this property back to a fire hydrant in order to provide not only the water services, but the fire protection for the services for that. The building department's going to make sure it meets all building code requirements for fire safety, distances, and everything that's associated with that. I do know there's a question about how tall the buildings could be. In our 3 district, they could go up to 30 feet, which would be a 3-story tall building. There are no conditions that would limit how tall the buildings would be placed at the site with the straight R3 zoning. But I do want to note, with the process that we've gone through with the Zoning Advisory Commission, they placed a condition that it can only be 6 units on the site. If they didn't place that condition, this could be developed into like 12 units, like 6 units on each separate lot. They viewed it that they wanted to limit the density on the site, and because that's a conditional rezoning, that required that the property owner sign the form stating that they agree to that condition before it could even, you guys could even be heard before you tonight. And they have done so. They've agreed to that condition. So it could be 6 units. Now, I want to be hesitant. This is just a concept plan. So just because what you see before you isn't 100% what could be built at that location, but this is what they're proposing. Currently would be 3 duplexes.
Thank you.
Wethel, Wally, I'm going to follow up real quick because you mentioned, Pat, would you mind coming up to answer the question about the green space? Because it is a question that's more directed to you. Thank you.
Yes, excuse me. The intention is on the drawing that we've got before you that all of the area that's shown in green would be turf. But as Wally mentioned, this is a concept. I wanted to make sure that we could get 3 units in there, 6 units in there, 3 buildings, and an appropriate cul-de-sac. Things could change a little bit from here, but this is just the concept that we came up with for tonight.
All right. Thanks for that. Thanks for that clarification. Other questions, discussion? Seeing no further discussion. Yeah, Ms. Rousseau, go ahead.
I just want to confirm that what we are voting on is the zoning change with the restrictions as suggested by the commission. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, based on the motion on the table, yes.
I confirm.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, Mr.
So the one thing that cannot change, just so everybody goes home understanding this, is it can't be more than 6 dwelling units. Could be a little different configuration how they lay out, but they've already agreed to that. They've signed off on it. That's the proposal before us, is no more than 6. I suppose they could change it to 5, but I don't think that's likely.
Thanks, Mr. Jones. So for my part, before I take this to a vote, I just want to kind of echo some of the things that we're hearing here. First of all, I always appreciate hearing from any concerns that we have in the neighborhood about what's happening there and some of the challenges there. Sometimes it brings to light some things that might be an issue that the development review team really needs to look at. The stormwater drainage might be one of those issues, for example. It sounds like we might have some challenges with that. And on that note, quickly, I will encourage people, if you're noticing stormwater drainage issues that you think might be city related, please reach out to us and let us know, and reach out to the city staff to check into that. Sometimes it's on city property, sometimes it's not, but we can at least determine those things for you and be able to help to determine what might be done or who might be responsible for dealing with it. So, I think in this situation, I have to agree with something Mr. Jones said about this being a really reasonable, I think, compromise coming from the Zoning Advisory Commission on this one. It sounds like the density for this area looks like it'll fit really well within the neighborhood. And then this is the point where we kind of have to trust in the process. And from my perspective, I have to say, I really do trust in the process. Wally talked about the development review team. You have really smart people that are there thinking really carefully about all these different things. And you kind of heard a bit of this if you were here for the B branch presentation. When you get a lot of people in the room, you talk about all the different things that might be happening. You talk to the fire department, you talk to the police department, you talk to the engineers, you talk to public works. All those trucks you talked about, there's somebody who has a department that runs those trucks. They think about all those things. I've never had the experience in my time paying attention to city government here in Dubuque of the city government just ignoring these types of concerns. This is something that we really pay close attention to, and I see the staff looking at that all the time. So I trust in the process that the development review team is going to do their job and be able to look at the things that could be challenges moving forward with this. As far as zoning goes, though, I agree that this is an appropriate zoning for this particular request, and I do intend to vote for it. With that, I see no further discussion or questions. So the motion on the table here is to receive and file and waive the 3 readings. And Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprague.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I move final consideration and passage of the ordinance.
Second by Wethel.
Got a motion by Jones and a second by Wethel. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprague.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0.
Public hearing number 2 is request to rezone Wood Street.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to receive and file, and further move that a requirement that a proposed ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed, be suspended.
Second by Sprague.
Motion by Roussel and a second by Sprank. Wally, please.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Wally Werma, Planning Services Director. The request before you tonight is to rezone property from R1 single-family residential and R3 density multifamily residential to a planned unit development with a PR, planned residential designation. Included in your packet is a vicinity map. The area that we're talking about is the property that's outlined in the black and white hashing. This is located off of Wood Street, directly behind Mount Pleasant Home. There is a pretty steep grade to the property. It drops about 86 feet from the back side to the front side. Wood Street does have some topography to it. The subject property is 3.5 acres. It's a vacant lot. As I mentioned before, it has frontage on Wood Street. It's irregularly shaped. Our zoning history shows that in 1975, this entire area was zoned to R2, two-family, and then 1985, it was rezoned to R1, single-family, R3, moderate density, multifamily, which is the present zoning for the property. So just kind of go over the project description. This is a pretty well thought out diagram that's provided here. The units that are highlighted in yellow are the 16 single-family residences that Habitat for Humanity is looking at constructing. Each unit has 2 parking spaces to those homes, 12 homes, which are highlighted in blue. Now there are the 4 units that are located on the south side of this image with regards to surface parking lot and some detached garages, which are shaded in pink. Stormwater detention is going to be managed on the south side of the property. And then you'll see a green open space walking path that goes through the development. There is an area there that's kind of highlighted in orange. That's the private access drive that'll come off of Wood Street. And then there's a large circular area you can kind of see there where this will be driving around it. That's a discussion point which could be multiple things as the development happens, whether that turns into a pocket park, open space, community gardens. That's really at what the homeowner association or the development for the Habitat for Humanity residents would be looking at using that property for. So with regards to our comprehensive plan, it does meet it, integrates future neighborhoods in our Dubuque area, access to our trails and our open space. We encourage a mix of affordable housing for all segments of our population, especially including options for those who might be saving for their first home, and Habitat, most of these are the first homes for individuals. We have plenty of adequate utilities for the site. A lot of discussion at the public hearing with regards to traffic. Wood Street is defined as a local street. It actually has a pretty wide right-of-way. When I say right-of-way from property line to property line, it's 64 feet. But the paved portion of the roadway is actually 30 to 31 foot, which is our standard street width to allow parking on both sides and vehicles to pass. These will have actual 10 average daily traffic trips per single family residence. So you're looking at an impact of 160 average daily trips per day, and Wood Street is designed and accommodated for the traffic. When we went through this process, we went through the development review team. We actually took this concept plan 3 times through that process. And the reason for a plan unit development is we want to make sure that the conceptual plan that the city council adopts meets basic requirements with regards to the development. So for traffic, they actually did a speed study on Wood Street in addition to a site visibility study. The location of the driveway that accesses to Wood Street has actually changed a couple times. The city engineer and the traffic engineer has visited the site, so traffic has been vetted very thoroughly with regards to this development. And then the surrounding development includes single-family residential properties, Mount Pleasant Home. We're in close proximity to Dubuque Senior High School, Loris College, and Allison Henderson Park. Here's our public notification map, area outlined in blue on your screen is the property, red is the 200-foot notification boundary. That did get brought up at the meeting, why we only notify within 200 feet. We have to set a limit with requirements for that, and we cannot be arbitrary and extend that boundary beyond what the 200-foot is. Actually, the state of Iowa only requires us to publish it in the paper. Our notification requirements go above and beyond that, which we notify the adjoining property owners. This is our public input map where we helped identify during the public hearing who spoke at the meeting when they got up and had conversations. A lot of discussion entailed loss of natural area, the woods, concerns about traffic flow on Wood Street being narrow and how traffic would be managed through there, icy hill conditions with vehicles driving up and down. Density, safety was also brought up with regards to the property. And I didn't have time, but I printed this handout. I'd like to hand this out around. Because one of the largest conversations that was discussed is, this is 16 units going on a piece of property, and they said that's too dense. That's too dense of a development in this location. Well, I did an analysis this afternoon just to provide it and provide a map, and I'll leave a copy of this up here if people want to come up when they're speaking to kind of take a look at it. But it's a comparison of the Habitat for Humanity property, which is 3.5 acres, and all the properties that actually contain homes on Wood Street. We looked at the entire acreage of that area and divided by the number of units that would be constructed in that area. So when we look at the Habitat Humanity property alone, for lot density, there's going to be about 9,574 square feet of lot area per dwelling unit. And when we look at the existing residential neighborhood and the density of that neighborhood, it's actually 6,844 square feet per unit. So the Wood Street neighborhood is actually a lot more dense than what this development will be by over 2,000 square feet per dwelling unit. So as we looked at the layout, what the current R3 zoning discussion was, there could be up to 40 units here instead of the 16 units that are being proposed for single-family development. So those are just a couple of things, and I'm going to leave that up here. If anyone would like to come up, take a look at it when they're speaking with regards to development. But at the public hearing, Eric Dregney, representative for Habitat for Humanity, spoke in favor of the request. He described only that they're looking at putting in 16 homes. They're looking at actually getting 4 homes under construction right away. This is a unique model that Habitat Humanity is looking at doing, some of these pocket park developments where you have a community inside a community with the development of interior streets, lot layouts, garages, park, and open space actually directly associated with the development, which is being provided to you as shown on the map. In the letter to the City Council, we provided all the very detailed public input. Normally we'd just say, hey, we had 9 people spoke about this, but I want to make very important to make sure that individuals' voices were heard specifically, and if you had an opportunity to review that for the discussion with regards to concerns with the development located in the neighborhood. The Commission had quite a bit of discussion with regards to it. They had a discussion about the parking areas and the location. One area that they did discuss, and I'm going to go back up to that concept plan, was this property owner that's located, oh, you can see my cursor up there. Maybe not. There is a single-family homeowner. As you can see, there's a lot outlined in black that comes off. This development will actually encompass or surround that property, and there are some off-street parking spaces that are directly adjacent to there. During the discussion, the Zoning Advisory Commission felt that there needed to be some additional screening to buffer headlights from those parking spaces to not directly shine on the adjoining property owner with regards to that. So they had quite a bit of conversation about that. Actually, to the fact that they actually placed a condition that the parking stalls located adjacent north of the property at 840 Wood Street, which is the home, be screened. We actually modified the plan unit development to include that buffering requirement in there, so they'd have signed a memorandum agreement that agrees to that condition. So a simple majority vote is all it's needed for the City Council to approve this request, and the vote was 4-0 by the Zoning Advisory Commission. That's all I have, unless you guys have any questions.
Okay. Thank you very much, Wally. We are in a public hearing to consider a request from Eric Dregney, Next Level LLC, to rezone property on Wood Street from R1 Single Family Residential to and R3 Moderate Density Multifamily Residential to Planned Unit Development with PR Plan Residential Designation, and the Zoning Advisory Commission is recommending approval with the following condition: that parking stalls located adjacent to the north of the property at 1840 Wood Street be screened. Do we have any public input on this item tonight? Come on up.
Good evening, everybody. Eric Dregney. I live at 408 Park Avenue in Galena, Illinois. I'm representing Habitat for Humanity as their owner's representative on this project. I don't have much to add to Wally's very thorough explanation of the project, other than to say that we have had the opportunity to have a neighborhood meeting, and we've gotten additional input. We've had some discussions about additional screening that might be of interest from some of the neighbors. We're open to those sorts of things, where they're practical and where we can do them. So we're engaged in hopefully ongoing dialogue with the folks in the neighborhood to try to make the project a success. And I'll take any questions you may have as well.
Okay. Thank you very much, Eric, for your comments. All right, come on up.
Will there be a second opinion column later? I was told earlier today that there might be a second opinion, that you'll accept opinions after this one before you vote.
So what will happen is we take all public input first. So right now, so this is your chance for public input.
It's like the only chance?
It is the only chance, yeah.
Okay,
And then we'll discuss together.
Thank you. My name's Sam Moore, 1795 Lawndale. This October will be 60 years in that residence. I'm going to have 19% of these houses connecting to my property line. I realize this is a zoning vote, and I think what I have to say is directly, I mean, this is probably the most historic piece of land in the heart of the city, other than maybe that farm by Tyson's. It's a treasure, hopefully, if everyone doesn't know about, the deer, the animals. Well, I assume you're enlightened on the previous meeting and their comments. If not, please let me know. What I'm understanding is that you're going to take a possibility to table this tonight and then maybe table it a second time, but the third time you have to vote on it. And I wish that you do get all the information you can. And since you have to vote one way or another to zone it as new zoning or as is, I'm hoping that, as just an example, if you vote to put it through, they can start immediately. And it's basically, it's gone. The history of it's gone, everything. It used to be an orphanage, and it's, like I say, this land's untouched. It's a treasure. If, as an example, you can vote no, it would stay R3. Now, I'm obviously against this. So I don't want R3, I don't want R1, but my hope is that maybe with all the minds and all the resources here, somehow, maybe we could everybody work out a plan where there's like a hold on the land. You've got jobs going to Wisconsin with A. McDonald's Foundry. You've got John Deere pulling out to Mexico. There's going to be people, there's going to be housing open. There's going to be families move. If just one of those opens up 16 houses, 32 houses, I think John Deere's 241 families affected. A.Y. McDonald, I'm guessing, is going to be 90 to 120 people. And I know for a fact, I talked to an estate family in Wisconsin. They said realtors and A.Y. McDonald workers are contacting they were contacted by the realtors, and they have people knocking on their door wanting this house, and they're trying to liquidate. But they were told that the realtors they're clamoring for the property, or houses, I should say. We have to, at some point in time, realize that we can't go east in our building. And I know the north, the south is problems, the west, if they don't want to sell farms, it's disappearing. But if we could just work something out and maybe put a time cap on this, maybe, I'd say 10 years, but maybe 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and review how many houses or families have come open. And obviously, if John Deere people leave, that's not going to be low-income housing, but that, the housing market shifts and ebbs, and we know that if somebody moves up, and then all of a sudden, the low-income housing could be open. If there's just some way we can maybe watch in the next few years before this land is, in my opinion, destroyed, gone, it can never be put back to what it is. If we could just all work out a deal, let's say it can be held to be reviewed every 3 years or so. At that point, like I might have already said this, but at that point, maybe you could keep track of how many John Deere people did leave, and A.Y. McDonald people did leave. The money that's invested in it is government money, it's grant money. This project, what's already invested, there's no private money or private funds. There's no, I mean, over the years, there's been realtors. It's been offered for sale before. It was offered for sale for, I think, 2 years right now before the year it sold in 23. So 21, 22, it was for sale. They've had numerous realtors advertise it. And I'm afraid, as we were told, my family was told, in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, it was like $90,000 and $120,000. And the realtors and the construction companies that looked at it said they couldn't feasibly do it financially, and they wanted to build homes that fit into the aesthetics and with proper nice sized yards and everything. And they also said they didn't have the heart to do it to the land. Not only was it really not practical, but it wasn't, I guess, ethical or humanic. You know, they just didn't see it, you know, feasible. And this was many realtors, planners, construction companies in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Now, I know you don't want people like directed to be criticized or whatever. Habitat for Humanity has done great things. I'm sorry.
And Sam, we do appreciate hearing your thoughts, but we're at about 6 minutes, just so you know.
This is government money, and so that's like I said before. I think the grant money that they can basically just ask for grant money and get it. It goes through. It's not out of anybody's pocket. I'm sorry. I wrote a lot of these, and I mean, to close what I think I'll be okay with here, we all know that in 2008 and 2009, there were billboards in Milwaukee and Chicago for the low-income housing people to come, and they're great, but the ads have a term. The people are here, I understand that. I already covered the fact that if, you know, there's no jobs here. I went through the foundry and the John Deere's. Let's say we have jobs, but no houses. Where I worked, we kind of joked amongst ourselves with Dubuque County plates that we were the minorities because the jobs were here, and most of the license plate in the parking lot, we had Delaware County, between 45 and 50-year employee. We had one from, believe it or not, Davenport for about 5 years. We had many from Jackson County, 2 to 6 from Clayton County. Mostly just Wisconsin or Illinois plates were more than Iowa plates. So people will come if there's jobs, and we have to put this on hold. If we need the housing in the future, the money that Habitat for Humanity has spent isn't lost. I know I'm over time.
Thank you, Sam, for your comments.
If you can table it, and at least maybe I can come to another public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Will Gross, 1799 Lawndale Street. So I guess under my understanding, if this PUD gets, or if this gets approved to get rezoned to this PUD, under my understanding is that it's going to be following this conceptual development plan, I guess. So this plan here, on the distance between the back house and my property is 17 feet. According to this one that's included in tonight's agenda. But the one that I received earlier, the distance between the house and my property line is 15 feet. So which one of these is right? I don't know. Because the one that's included only has 2 revisions, and the last revision was May 6th. The one that's 15 feet is 3 revisions, and the last revision is 528, which is not included in tonight's agenda. So that's I'm not sure of. I do not, right now, I like the privacy. With this, I'm not going to have any privacy in my backyard. There's nothing in the plans for any kind of screening or anything for privacy. Even if you did landscape privacy, I feel that's still not very private. Let's say if you did 4-foot arborvitae trees, or however you pronounce it, I don't think that's going to provide very much privacy. And all the trees that are there now, they're all a lot of old growth trees. They got to clear a lot of them out. More than 50% are going to be gone, including down my property line, which they do not show in this, but in another one I received, they show the tree line, and this is my property line. Tree line cuts all the way back here. There's no need for all those trees to be gone. I like the trees on my property line. There's no reason to leave them. And according to the PUD unit development plan, it says that due consideration is given to preserving natural site amenities and minimizing the disturbance of the natural environment. Existing trees are preserved whenever possible, and location of trees will be considered in designing building locations, underground service, and paved areas, which I do not believe they did when they did this plan drawing. And I'm reading that off of City Ordinance 16.5, 24.5, F and G. And other things in the City Ordinance I do not believe that this covers is on 16.5, 24.3C, it says other conditions. Other conditions may be required if found necessary to protect and promote the best interests of the surrounding property or neighborhood. And subsection 2, specific landscaping, screening, lighting requirements to maintain privacy in adjoining properties. There's nothing in the plan for that. On 16.524.5C, the proposed development shall not interfere with the appropriate use and enjoyment of property on abutting districts. If this happens, I'm not going to be able to enjoy my property at all. And that's that. Wally was comparing the density in between the R3 and the right now. But according to this, there is a restrictive covenant that Mount Pleasant put on that land in 2015, and there gives, I don't know if it's still in fact, but it currently can be used for multifamily dwellings, which a maximum of 4 dwelling units and townhouses. But then also the structural restrictions in it state that no detached garage or shed shall be larger than 250 square feet in size. In their plans, they're showing 2 garages that are much, much larger than that. But like I said, I don't know if that restrictive covenant is still in place or not, but and another thing too about that, mentioned from the back of that house to my property line, normally either R3 or R1, it's minimum 20-foot backyard. Why has it got to be lower for this? And why is it different between the two? Is floating in the air? I don't know what it is. Nobody knows what it is, I guess. I would like to know what it is for sure, but I would like it to be the minimum 20 feet at least, and why is it less than that? I guess that's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Will, for your comments.
Good evening. I am Carla Anderson, 1131 Main Street. I am the board president for Habitat for Humanity. Thank you for having us here and hearing what we have to say. Mount Pleasant was owned by the people that run Mount Pleasant. So it wasn't anybody's personal property other than Mount Pleasant. They chose to sell to Habitat for very good reasons. We need housing out here that is affordable. We never said it was low-income housing. We said affordable housing. I was at the neighborhood meeting this past Tuesday. I think I've told several people that I've run into the racist comments out here. Here's the thing, I'm here. There's gonna be more people that look like me that are here. It doesn't matter where they live. The gentleman mentioned the billboards in Chicago and Milwaukee. They weren't in Chicago. I was working construction downtown Chicago at that time. They were in the south suburbs, and what they said is, we don't want you here. And that was during the time that Mayor Daley was doing his beautification project in downtown Chicago. What he did is he took away the housing vouchers of the people that we moved from the housing projects and basically said, you can come back when we finish. They were not allowed to come back. A lot of them ended up here in Dubuque, and a lot of them ended up in Milwaukee. That part is true. But the same gentleman also made the comment, I'm standing in the room, is we should do like Chicago and Milwaukee and put a no vacancy sign up. That was the comment. Now, I said it was racist. The people around me didn't think it was racist, but the people outside of that thought it was racist. We didn't say who was all building the property, but as the president of the board, guess who's going to be there? And I'm the competent person. Habitat for Humanity has a habit of being a good steward in the community, meaning our goals are to go inside this community, see what else that they need aesthetically, and it's our job to make that happen for them. We don't charge for that. That is how Habitat has always operated, internationally and here. We're not going to be any different. We are here. The people that run the facility want us there. We're not trying to encroach on anybody's property. We will help them if they want a fence, whatever they want. We can help them with that. That's why we have builders. To say, to hang out a vacancy sign, to my understanding, that is not the policy any longer in Dubuque. We're supposed to be all-inclusive. It doesn't matter where they live, right? We did not say we're not going to be there. We did not say we're not going to hear what you have to say. But understand, once City Council approves this, it's going up. We will be awesome stewards in the neighborhood. I hope you guys all come back for groundbreaking. But as far as having concerns about the color of somebody's skin, which is what this is what this is. This time I'm going to call it out. Nobody else is going to call it out. I'm going to say it. It doesn't matter the color of your skin. It doesn't matter if it's low income or not. But we never said that. Affordable housing does not equate to low income housing. It just doesn't. Houses that are $200,000, they're not in this neighborhood. I worked construction too long to know better. They're not there. We enhance the property. Go up and down, anywhere in Dubuque, for all the people that complain about their property values, take pictures of the property. They're not owned by black people because we don't own property out here. I don't want to hear about property values. I don't want to hear about green spaces because it's there right now, and people complain about deer ticks. They complain about the other bugs. Guess what? When you enhance the property, you can take care of all of that at the same time. If you know what you're doing and you know what to look for, we can eliminate a lot of problems over there, as well as enhancing other people's property, the drainage system. There will be no parking on Wood Street because they will have a separate access entry. They will have enough parking for themselves to not encroach on Wood Street. It's a great design. We need housing. Let's stop talking about it. Let's build it and make it happen, and let us be the good stewards in the community and get the word out and celebrate the whole community. I'm hoping we get a whole community build. Everybody involved that's a DIYer, come out and help us. We need volunteers. Don't get upset at us for trying to make a neighborhood better. Better with more people that can help each other. That's what the community is, and that's what we will be, part of this community. Thank you.
Thank you, caller, for your comments. Any others this evening? Okay. Anyone virtually?
Michael Keck did submit written input included with the agenda item.
All right, thank you. Last chance for public input. If you already had public input, yeah, thank you though, Sam. Okay, to the table then, discussion, questions.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Rezoning.
I have a question for Mr. Dragney, if you would, sir. You has 16 units here. Could you tell me about the sequencing of that? Are you going to do 4 at once? Are you going to start 8, or what's the plans?
Yeah, it's a little difficult to see on your drawing, but we're gonna start with the two houses to the north. And then if you kind of make the corner up into our drive, there's another 6 houses along that north side of that driveway. So our intent is to do 6 houses in the first phase. We may begin on our drive, we may begin with the 2 to the north, but in any case, we're going to do the 6 houses in that, on that north side of the drive that we're going to put in. We have funding in place and a grant that requires us to build the first 6 houses, to have those houses actually contracted by the end of this year and to be fully complete by the end of 2025.
Great, thank you for that. And could you tell me, is there a 20, maybe Wally could tell me, is there a minimum of 20 feet between the backyard and those things need to be looked at, and I'm sure you're going to look at that before it's all approved, so all of those ordinances will have to be, of course, looked at.
Absolutely, yeah. Our setbacks currently meet the requirements for a PUD, and if there's an opportunity to create a little more space for a neighbor and we can fit that in, we're willing to look at that.
I appreciate your flexibility. And Ms. Anderson also talked about it. If there's a privacy screening issue, well, let's get at it. Let's improve the neighborhood and have good neighborly relations. And so I have a good feeling about this. I appreciate all the work that Habitat does, as even everybody has mentioned. What a great job you do. So thank you for your help with this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Sprank. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll give you up here one more second.
No problem.
A couple questions. What's the square footage of these houses?
Sure.
One 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom?
They are just under, the floor plan we're looking at right now is just under 1,200 square feet, about 1,195 square feet. They're 3-bedroom houses. The little square you see on the front of each house in this design, I do have a handout I could pass around that shows you a house design. Those are front porches. So all the houses are accessed from either, Wood Street or our street. They face Wood Street or they face the new street that we'll construct. And then they face into that pocket neighborhood where there could be green space, community garden, those sorts of things. 3-bedroom, 2 full bath, washer dryer, no basements. Habitat for Humanity uses a standard plan that includes universal design, that enhances access and accessibility, enhances sustainability in the design of the home, but typically don't include basements. So they're slab on grade as they are right now.
And 1-story or 2-story?
They're all 1-story. And we intend to make some of them fully handicap accessible, depending on who the residents are. I don't know if you know the Habitat process, but basically, as we start to build homes, Habitat will be out engaging with potential buyers for these homes. So Habitat residents purchase their homes, they have a mortgage. Their mortgage meets affordable housing requirements, less than 30% of the individual or the family's income. And so these are people buying a single-family home with a mortgage, and in this case, as a part of an association that will be formed to take care of the common property, the streets, the green spaces, et cetera.
I think I've seen this house in about 2 spots in my neighborhood. There's one, I believe, on White Street, and then 29th and 29th and Elm. I think there's the second one, so that's...
Could be.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. It may not be that exact house.
I know, the same size,
but
though. Yeah.
Similar idea, yeah.
Right. Those are my questions. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Ms. Russell.
I think it's really exciting. Habitat for Humanity offers some opportunities that homeowners wouldn't normally have. And I just wondered, has Habitat done anything of this magnitude in Dubuque before? All in one place?
They have not. They've typically built a home a year or every 2 years over the last few years. So the opportunity to get this grant, to form the partnership to purchase the land with Mount Pleasant. These things have all come together to make this project possible. There's also a lot of private support for this. We've got companies that are interested in helping, people that are making private donations to help support the project. So it's really been an exciting project for Habitat in terms of sort of raising their game and raising their capacity to do more of this type of thing. And then this is also an approach that's becoming more and more popular with Habitat for Humanities across the country. So there are pocket neighborhood approaches like this in Des Moines. One was recently done in Maquoketa. So this is an approach that creates more community, which is what Habitat's really about at the end of the day anyway. And then at the same time gains efficiencies that help make it easier to make more homes available for more people.
Well, I was also pleased to see that you had a neighborhood meeting. I think it shows that you want to be a good neighbor, and I think that's really important. And when you're looking at the green space, would this be open to all the neighbors, or is it just the people that live there?
I guess it would be up to the association at that point, how they want to handle that. They'll create those rules for themselves, just like any neighborhood association would do. I don't know why not, but that'll be up to them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Wethel. Go ahead.
The first time I heard the term pocket neighborhood was at an ECIA meeting where they showed us what Maquoketa looked like. And I thought, that's the future of affordable housing.
Yeah.
And then I saw this. And I thought, in a space in which we just tonight talked about the effects of poverty in our city, and for those who weren't here, I think it was discussed that 15% of women in our city live in poverty. 41.2% of students in Dubuque community schools are of low socioeconomic status. We talked about how housing prices from 2018 to 2022 increased by 32%, and the power of what generational wealth does when a family purchases a home. And to have that—
To the choir.
Yeah, right. But to have that discussion, which was really moving for me, precede this discussion tonight, I powerfully believe that we have to look to one another to find solutions to our housing issues. And as we discussed tonight, work in partnership to try and find affordable housing to lift people up out of poverty. And so I want to share my gratitude with everyone involved, because I know that it's hard work and that what you do takes so much commitment and really a higher calling to get this work done. So thank you, and I'm so excited to support this work.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Jones.
The big green space that shows, is it a walking path loop through it?
Yeah.
Is the wooded area that sounds
is.
like people are nostalgic about. Will the character of those woods be, you're not going to bulldoze all the trees out of there or anything, right?
No. We'll have to change it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have to deal with stormwater. We're going to have to, some of the wood line comes up along the backside of those homes. So there will be changes to the tree line. Our goal is to assess every tree and save every tree that we can save, and probably plant more trees when we're done, frankly. So, which tree we can save now and when, we're getting to that point. But as we go through it, our goal, we want a green space back there with a trail and trees. That's why we drew it that way. So, our goal is, not to clear cut the whole thing and start from scratch.
The only concern I have with this project is with the slab-on-grade construction, and with global climate disruption that we're experiencing more and more of every single day. How do we shelter these people in severe weather events?
So we're actually building a safe room in every house. So the second bathroom or middle bathroom, and if we had a floor plan, I could show you right where that is. That'll actually be constructed in a way that secures all four walls of that room to the foundation in a way that goes above and beyond the way you would secure any wall in the house. And then it thickens the walls in terms of the stud size. And then you also add double 5/8 plywood to the exterior of all of those walls. So we're planning to build those safe rooms for that specific reason. If there were a severe weather or a storm, those are designed to withstand the wind or a tree falling or whatever it might be.
Thank you. I guess my bottom line where I land on this, and frankly most zoning issues, is this is privately owned property. It's owned by Habitat now, previously owned by another not-for-profit at Mount Pleasant Home, offered for sale to the community. Joyce Connors got a nod earlier tonight, the late great councilwoman. But one of the things that she said often in issues like this was, if you look out your living room window and you see a beautiful vista, and you really like looking at it, you probably ought to try and buy it before someone builds a Walmart there. Well, this isn't a Walmart. This is going to be some pretty classy housing for people that are on their way up. And that's the beauty of Habitat, is that it gets people on the way up. So I hope that through the development review process that we look at those rear lot lines. I hope that that you can honor that commitment to do what you can with fencing and screening to make it less disruptive and less invasive to the adjacent property owners. But the fact is that Habitat owns the property and has every right to develop it into something. And for the greater good of the community, this is a great plan. I'll close my comments. We're keenly aware that we're short about 1,100 housing units in this community for conditions that exist right now. There's no reason to think that that's going to get better by people moving away, or that large numbers of that's going to happen. We could lose some folks out of the John Deere relocation of jobs when that happens. The other company mentioned, I think most of the people that live in Dubuque and work there are going to continue to live in Dubuque and work there. It's not much of a commute. It's certainly in our labor shed. We've got lots and lots and lots of people coming from that very area to work in Dubuque every day. Hundreds of them, perhaps thousands. I think this is a great use of property that's not been used for anything, that nobody's been able to find a good use for decades. And so I plan to support this, and thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Ms. Farmer.
Number one, I want to applaud you for the Pocket Park and for the Pocket neighborhood, and having lived and worked in many large cities where your neighborhood is very important to you, this just creates a communal aspect that I think is quite unique and hopefully is continued throughout the city. I do have a question, and it might be for Wally, about there was a mention of a restricted covenant by Mount Pleasant or by previous ownership. Could you explain that?
Yes, I can explain that. Restrictive covenants are private agreements between a developer and a property owner. The city is not part and parcel to any of those agreements. Okay. So by the council approving this, there's no connection for that. That would be an agreement between the previous developer with regards to that. A lot of times restricted covenants have clauses on it, sunset clauses, but really when we get involved with private covenants, if we're not actually part of the agreement, it's agreement between the two developers. So.
Okay, well, thank you for that explanation. And then one more point, just to make everybody, to reinforce the point that we had discussed previously, is that the driveway and the access will be private as well, and the homeowners association will take care of the maintenance and the repair. And no doubt we can get an emergency vehicle in that space.
Yes, we took this through the DRT 3 times. So looking at the access, the grades for the fire truck, the turning around, the radiuses, based on the design, it would be a private driveway for access to the property. I do want to mention, it was discussed, we do have a conceptual development plan that will be adopted as part of the ordinance, and that does indicate that it's 17.5 feet and 17 feet from those property owners along that rear property line, those individuals that live on Lawndale Street for that. So they're tied to that.
Mm-hmm.
The conceptual development plan is what's approved. It can be, there can be minor changes to the conceptual development plan, provided there's not any increase in the conforming, or if they move structures further away, they're okay with that once we start getting closer than what's approved or adding additional units. That's when we really say, hey, we got to take it back to the Zoning Advisory Commission, back through the council.
That's a nice layout. So thank you very much for answering that. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I believe that's everybody. So I think one of the things that I've recognized in the multiple different rezonings that we've had to do in the last year is that the parcels of land that haven't been touched for a long time are some of the hardest ones. They're some of the most challenging rezoning decisions that we have in front of us because they have been that way for so long that it just seems like that's the way they're going to stay. And that's the way it's always going to be. And there are some places in the city of Dubuque that are going to stay at the way they are forever. They will not be developed. There are certain cliffs and places that I don't know if anybody's ever going to figure out how to put a house or anything that anybody can live on in those spots. This is not one of those spots. This is a spot that is something that has, as was mentioned, it's been up for sale. Developers have looked at it. Nobody's figured it out yet. But here we have somebody who has, and I actually think that this plan is one that is a pretty good concept for what could be in this space. I say that with a qualifier. Anytime we do a project, or that somebody does a project in this community of this magnitude, I would sure hope that we can always make sure that we are doing everything we can to be good neighbors to one another. And that goes for everybody in the process. And what I like about what I'm hearing so far is that there is communication happening. What I would encourage, and this isn't part of the vote that I'm going to make here, but what I would encourage is that communication never stops. Please keep talking with one another about the best way to do this for each of you. And you're going to have disagreements, you're going to have agreements. There are going to be times that you're just going to have to agree to disagree. But overall, this, I think, is as a entity coming in to buy this property and develop on it, I can't think of much of a better one than Habitat for Humanity in this case. But that does require, and what I'd ask of Habitat for Humanity is that you continue to be good stewards of any land you can. And this is just a request, again, nothing that's going to be tied to whatever I'm voting on here, but try to be the best stewards of the land you can, be the best neighbors that you possibly can be, and then that goes for everybody else in the neighborhood as well. I think that this can work. I think that this concept can definitely work. I think it's a good plan. I do plan to vote for it because I think it is going to be something that is going to be a successful use of all the purposes that are needed here for this land. So that would just be my request as somebody who's thinking from a community standpoint, that we continue to work together to do this as best as you possibly can. I think that there is definitely a good way forward to do that. As far as the rezoning goes, though, for this particular proposal in front of us, I agree with it. I think it's a good use of it, and I do plan to vote for it. Okay. Just to clarify, too, the motion on the table is to receive and file this and waive the 3 readings. So this would be a vote to waive the readings for the ordinance here. So that we have a motion by Roussel, second by Sprank. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move final consideration and passage of the ordinance.
Second by Sprank.
Got a motion by Roussel and a second by Sprank. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kavanaugh. Farber. Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
That motion passes 7-0.
Public hearing number 3 is Planned Unit Development Amendment for 555 John F. Kennedy Road.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Jones.
I move to receive and file the communications and further move that the requirement that a proposed ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which is to be finally passed be suspended.
Second by Farber.
Got a motion by Jones and a second by Farber. Wally again, please.
Whoops.
Yes, good evening. Once again, Wally Wermont, Planning Services Director. The request before you tonight is to really adopt a new planning unit development for the Kennedy Mall. We had a lot of conversations with regards to this development. Home Goods is going to be occupying or is occupying an existing space. When that came before our office, they had to apply for a sign variance. The request for the signage on the property, based on the regulations when it was adopted, was C3 general commercial, and that limits only 100 square foot wall-mounted sign for that tenant space. When they came in our office, they said in order to get a larger sign sign for that property, they have to apply for a variance from the Zoning Board of Adjustment. That did go to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. It went through a public hearing, and the Zoning Board of Adjustment actually denied the variance request. So then we worked with Cafaro and said, okay, let's look at this property, and let's look at actually amending the PUD requirements to make the signage more in scale with the scale of the building. Cafaro does own Asbury Plaza, and they have current sign regulations which they're looking at adapting to match what would be allowed at the mall location. During those conversations, we also had an opportunity to say, hey, you know, you have a lot of open space out here. You got a lot of surface parking area. Or having the opportunity to amend the PUD with regard to your signage. Is there anything else you'd like to look at amending for the mall? And at that time, discussions was involved with reducing the parking requirement in order to allow some additional outlots located on the property. So that's kind of where we stand. The Cafaro company submitted an application to basically rescind and adopt the new plan unit development to allow the sign regulations that would follow the Asbury Plaza. The only thing different with regards to those signs is that we have interior spaces inside the mall that don't get the opportunity to advertise outside the building. So if you walk through the mall, there's some larger scale developments with regards to some of the jewelry companies. You have Victoria's Secrets, you have Hibbett Sports. There's a lot of different interior spaces that don't get the opportunity to be on the exterior of a wall. They could be on the freestanding sign, but what we did is when we worked with Cafaro Company, is there an opportunity to allow them to have some of that space, some of that advertising that you can see from the roadway, because due to the distance of the scale of the parking lot, the heavily traveled streets of Dodge Street and JFK at this location. So one of the amendments was to look at having a smaller sign requirement, and it's at the discretion of the property owner, in this case Cafaro, allowing who gets a wall-mounted sign from the interior space on the exterior. But the signs will be more in proportion to the building. The building already has several sign variances that were kind of granted through over the years. As you can see, the plan unit development was in place since the 1968. It's been amended several times. The parking requirements is the other discussion. You know, they initially started out with 1 per 500, down to 250. Now we're looking 1 per 300 square feet, which will free up a lot of that expanse of that open parking lot area to allow some of that outlot signage. And conversely, the plan unit development limited the number amount of gross square footage in the property, and that was directly related to the off-street parking requirements. And you know, there's a big movement in the planning and zoning development with regards to parking. Some communities are actually eliminating off-street parking. Some are actually putting in maximum parking requirements just because for adaptive reuse, increase of public transportation. And I think this is a good opportunity with the amendment to the plan unit development to give the mall an opportunity to provide some additional redevelopment. And I know Cafaro Company is present here. This is a summary that they're going to get up here and give a presentation to you with regards to it. But you know, at the public hearing, we had no one spoke in opposition to the request. The Zoning Advisory Commission had a lot of conversation. It was interesting. There's some conversation about at one point in time, you know, people are leaving the downtown and they're coming into the mall, right? So now we're talking about in our communities, we got to keep our malls, you know, viable. It's kind of the reverse in some discussion with regards to that. One of our commissioners had a very specific comment with regards to that. So, you know, I had a conversation, and the 5 members, by a vote of 5-0, the Zoning Advisory Commission recommends that the City Council approve the request. And as I mentioned, there are representatives here from Cafaro who would like to kind of go over the document that's provided to you and give you a brief presentation with regards to their development. I'm free. I'll have some questions afterwards.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you. Yeah, we can invite the folks up to give us a presentation, please. Thank you.
Justin Somerville, 5577 Youngstown Warren Road, Niles, Ohio. Yeah, I went ahead and I put together this little PowerPoint here just to kind of help explain a little bit our reasoning as to why we're requesting some of these items, which Wally did a really good job of summarizing these, but I just want to kind of reiterate. So the parking ratio and the minimum parking requirements and the building expansion, all those items really help to reconfigure the mall property and to also promote growth in the mall. The mall's been there for about over 50 years, and we would like to, of course, see it there for another 50 years. Malls have also had to evolve. The last time this PUD was amended was in 2003. Things have changed very dramatically since then. With the new age of online shopping and phones, social media, people want their groceries and stuff that they buy at the mall delivered to their cars. So those items in blue up there will really help with that. That last item, the interior tenant, the wall signage on the exterior for interior tenants will just give us another opportunity to invite prominent retailers into the mall and still have the ability to display exterior signs on the outside. That's a very large mall. There's a lot of tenants on the inside. So that's over a 500,000 square foot building on a 55-acre property. So we don't want to pepper the building with signs all over the place, but just something that we can offer tenants. And then everything that's in orange up there directly mimics other competing developments in the city. There's nothing nothing new that we're asking for there. So any questions, of course, I can answer them.
Justin, thank you very much for the presentation. Okay, well, we are in a public hearing lost track of myself there. We're in a public hearing to consider a request from Kennedy Mall to amend the planned unit development at 555 John F. Kennedy Road, modify parking, building, and sign regulations, and the Zoning Advisory Commission is recommending approval. Do we have any public input on this item this evening? I'm seeing nobody else here for public input. Do we have any virtual input? Thank you, Courtney.
No input.
Thank you very much. Okay, back to us then for discussion.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Jones.
This all makes sense. Cafaro, you've done a great job at keeping the mall relevant and way more active than a lot of other malls in other communities. To the community, I think you've done a good job of engagement with the community, and your people are popping up in other places in the community doing good things. I wholeheartedly support this. I think that changing times require changing ordinances. So here we go.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Yeah, Mr. Resnick.
Just quickly, I think the mall is still a draw, and especially to our outlying western communities. They come in, experience the mall, and then that draws them in for more of Dubuque activities. So I think it's important to remain vital. And as Mr. Jones says, I think these are common sense, good things to approve. So I intend to. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah, Ms. Russell.
I love the opportunity to take better use of the parking lot. I don't think I've ever seen the parking lot, totally full. So there's some great opportunities out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? Yeah, Ms. Wethel.
I would just like to say thank you for creating space for employment for people in Dubuque, enjoyable surroundings, safe space. I'm a nurse practitioner. I have a lot of patients that walk at the mall. I have teenage girls who love the mall. I have a little boy who got a perm at the mall last week. So I'm just going to share that I believe offering a space for us to have a tax base that's local retail is important. And I also feel that as a community, we need to remember that we have the mall. And so as you invest in the mall, I want our community to remember it's our job to frequent it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I like everything about this proposal. I think it looks great. I think, and I really appreciate the work that's gone into it to try and figure out, okay, how do we look at this with fresh eyes? I didn't realize it was 2003. I must have missed that in notes too, that it was the last time this was updated. Obviously things need updating. Obviously malls right now need updating, and finding new ways to make sure that it remains relevant and a very important part of the city of Dubuque is everything that I would be for. So I really appreciate the fact that this is, I think, very well thought out. I think it's thoughtful in that it's, like you said, not going to be plastering the walls. We're not thinking like science fiction movies with neon signs in all directions here. We're thinking more like something that's going to be realistic. And I think that fits within the proposal that we have before us. So I'm very happy to see it. I think this is going to be hopefully a good way to continue to breathe some new life into this area that's already getting new life breathed into it. So I think it's great. Okay. Well, motion here before us is to receive and file and waive the 3 readings. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Jones.
I move final consideration and passage of the ordinance.
Second by Farber.
A motion by Jones and a second by Farber. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Public hearing number 4 is resolutions approving and extended an amended and restated urban renewal plan for the South Point Housing Urban Renewal Area.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Sprank.
I motion that we receive and file and adopt the resolutions.
Second.
A motion by Sprank and a second by Jones. Mike, am I coming to you?
Yes, thank you.
All right.
City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Economic Development Director Jill Connors is recommending City Council adopt the resolution approving amended and restated urban renewal plan for the South Point Housing Urban Renewal Area and a resolution approving a 3-year extension of the Division of Revenue for the South Point Housing Urban Renewal Area. Due to supply chain delays during and following the COVID-19 pandemic and subsequent economic impacts, including increased material costs and higher lending interest rates, housing development slowed significantly from 2020 to 2023, increasing the necessary timeline to develop a residential housing subdivision. Greater Dubuque Development Corporation President and CEO Rick Dickinson met with the city and the developer on this project to propose that he would approach our state legislators to amend the current state law relating to housing TIFs. Our state legislators advocated on our behalf. This impact has been felt statewide, which has prompted the Iowa legislature and the governor to support a 3-year extension of housing urban renewal areas. This would extend the time frame for division of revenue within the area through 2032. As part of extending the division of revenue by 3 years, as authorized by recent Iowa legislation, the city requested consent from the Dubuque County Board of Supervisors and the Dubuque Community School District via an extension agreement. This extension agreement was approved by the Board of Supervisors on June 3rd, 2024, and by the Dubuque Community School District Board of Education on June 10th, 2024. The City Council, I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you very much, Mike. We are in a public hearing to consider City Council adopt the resolution of approving an amended and restated urban renewal plan for the South Point Housing Urban Renewal Area and a resolution approving a 3-year extension of the Division of Revenue for the South Point Housing Urban Renewal Area. Do we have any public input on this item?
Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council, my name is Rick Dickinson. I reside at 205 Hill Street in Dubuque, Iowa, and I have the pleasure of serving as the president of Greater Dubuque Development Corporation. I agree with everything City Manager Mike Van Milligan shared about this project. I do ask for your favorable consideration of it. But for the citizens of Dubuque, I just wanted to take a minute to talk about how important this project is. First of all, it's a project that has about 60 houses already completed, or I should say door fronts or some duplexes at South Point. This will provide the opportunity for another 140 units in that development. This is a case where the City of Dubuque, in collaboration with the developers of South Point, wanted to help, realize the challenges that the developer was confronted with that 3-year of basically zero activity during COVID. Yet they couldn't help, the city could not help because the Iowa Code did not allow them to. And so we went about backing up 30 years to our old legislative days, drafted some legislation, and it was approved. But I want the citizens to know that the city, from the beginning, wanted to help this project, opened up the same package that's now available to other developers in the market. And I'd like to take a moment to make a special thank you to Representative Shannon Lundgren, Senator Kerry Kolker, an old buddy of mine, Senator Bill Dotzler from Waterloo, who is a ranking member on the committee that amended the Iowa Tax Section 403 so that this project can expand and create another 160 jobs in Dubuque, Iowa. And if they know about it, it's available to everybody in the state. But I hope they don't know.
Thank you, Rick, for your comments. Any others? Okay. Do we have anything virtually?
No.
No input.
All right, thank you. All right, to us then. I'm going to expand just a little bit on something, Rick, on what Rick was just pointing out here, because this kind of thing doesn't just happen. This is what requires some serious attention from something like the Greater Dubuque Development Corporation. The reason we have GDDC is for purposes like this, to be able to partner with the business community and the city, put it together, look towards the legislature and say, we need to change something if we want housing to happen in our community. And that's exactly what Rick and his team at GDDC did, and what Jill Connors did with here at the city, and Mike. And I also would like to thank our legislators who were involved in this too. This is kind of, I don't think this is an easy one to understand unless you were kind of watching this all go down. And what it really required was some good old relationship building. I mean, that's really what it was, making sure that we talk to each other, recognize that there's a problem, understand what the solution could look like, and then build that solution. And I'm really happy that we've done that here, because I think at times I think that gets missed in some of the discussions that we have about how development works and all these different things. So in this case, it worked really, really well. It was a great partnership with all people. All the relationships were working very well to get this done. And I think we've come to a great solution here that now lands in our lap to be able to procedurally move the way through it. And I think that it's a no-brainer for me. This is actually really, I think it's a very important vote, but it's actually something that's going to be very useful for our community and for housing. The last groups that I want to make sure I thank very directly the Dubuque County and the Board of Supervisors and the Board of Education for the Dubuque Community School District. They're partners in this when we talk about anything that has to do with urban renewal areas. So I really appreciate them considering this and helping us move this forward. Any other discussion or questions? Okay, seeing none. Motion here is to receive and file and adopt the resolutions. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprague.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Public hearing number 5 is resolution approving a First Amendment to Development Agreement by and between the City of Dubuque, Iowa and South Point LLC, and providing for the issuance of urban renewal tax increment revenue obligations pursuant to the development agreement.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Resnick.
I move to receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Farber.
A motion by Resnick, second by Farber. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Economic Development Director Jill Connors is recommending City Council adopt the attached resolution on a proposed First Amendment to the Development Agreement by and between the City of Dubuque and South Point LLC, providing for the issuance of urban renewal tax increment revenue obligations. The South Point Housing Urban Renewal Area was originally established by the City Council on March 20th, 2017. The purpose of creating the area was to facilitate the construction of much-needed housing and residential development in the Dubuque area market. To incentivize the development of residential housing in the area, the City Council directed tax increment collection in the area to incentivize the development and insist in the necessary public improvements required for the creation of new housing for a period of 10 years. And as you just did your action in the last agenda item, you approved an extension of that. 3 documents must be approved in order to carry out the provisions of the authorized extension of 3 years of tax increment reimbursements. 1, a development agreement. This is the agreement between the city and South Point providing for the TIF payments. The First Amendment to this development agreement is the subject of this memorandum. Number 2, an urban renewal plan. This is the agreement among the city, county, and school district, which allows the city to collect the tax increment revenue used to provide the reimbursements committed in the development agreement. This document has been modified and is being brought to you tonight. Number 3, the extension agreement. This is an additional agreement among the city, county, and school district, which specifically calls out the 3-year extension approved by the legislature. This document was approved by the Board of Supervisors on June 3rd and by the school board on June 10th. The key elements of the First Amendment to the development agreement include the following. The park the developer was originally required to construct is now optional. Number 2, the amount of reimbursement for the park construction cost has been increased to a maximum of $200,000 if the developer opts to build the park. Number 3, Reimbursement of eligible expenses has been extended by 3 years and provided an accelerated rate subject to the consent of the county and the school district for the extension. Number 4, the city is no longer obligated to make improvements to portions of Rockdale Road as in the original agreement. Number 5, the city agrees to accept streets within the subdivision if or when they're brought to city standards. Number 6, the developer will receive 100% of the remaining yearly increment after the deduction of the low and moderate income housing assistance set aside not to exceed the actual expenditures for the qualified infrastructure improvement cost made after June 1st, 2024. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. We are in a public hearing to consider City Council adopt the attached resolution on a proposed First Amendment to the development agreement by and between the City of Dubuque, Iowa and South Point LLC, providing for the issuance of urban renewal tax increment revenue grant or revenue obligations. Do we have anyone here in the chambers to address us on this item? Seeing no one. Anything virtually?
No. No input.
All right, thank you. Back to us for any discussion or questions then. Seeing none. I'll just point out, as Mike's memo mentioned, this is one of the steps of the 3 he listed there, so we already took one of them tonight. Okay. Motion here on the table is to receive and file, adopt the resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprague.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Public hearing number 6 is resolution approving a development agreement by and between the City of Dubuque, Iowa and Milor Flats LLC, providing for the issuance of urban renewal tax increment revenue grant obligations pursuant to the development agreement.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Wethel.
I move to receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Sprague.
Got a motion by Wethel and a second by Sprank. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Economic Development Director Jill Connors is recommending City Council adopt a resolution approving a development agreement by and between the City of Dubuque, Iowa and Milor Flats LLC, providing for the issuance of urban renewal tax increment revenue grant obligations. Milor Flats owns 1065 Jackson Street and intends to raise the existing structure and redevelop the lot. The project will include the creation of 62 market-rate residential rental units as well as first-floor commercial space. The project will be utilizing a combination of public and private financing, as well as applying to the Iowa Workforce Development Housing Tax Credit Program. The key elements of the development agreement include the following. Developer will make a capital investment of approximately $17.5 million to redevelop the property. Developer must create 62 market-rate residential rental units. Developer will receive 15 years of tax increment financing incentives in the form of semi-annual rebates. Tax increment financing incentives are estimated to not exceed $3,106,447. The city to award a forgivable loan in amount of $500,000 at 0% interest. For each new rental unit created, $10,000 will be forgiven up to the full balance of $500,000. Unless forgiven, the remaining balance on the loan will be due in full on May 1st, 2027. The City of Dubuque will amend the Greater Downtown Urban Renewal District Plan to accommodate the issuance of tax increment financing incentives. The development agreement requires a developer to accept applications from prospective tenants with housing choice vouchers that are otherwise qualified prospective tenants. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. We are in a public hearing to consider City Council adopt a resolution approving a development agreement by and between the City of Dubuque, Iowa and Milor Flats LLC, providing for the issuance of urban renewal tax increment revenue grant obligations. Do we have anyone here in the chambers to address us on this item? Seeing no one here, anything virtually?
No input.
Thank you. All right, back to us for discussion then.
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Farber,
Yeah, I wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Fullen and the group for this development and for the filling in of that area down in the millwork. I think it'll give it some additional energy down there and just enhance the millwork village. So thank you very much, and I look forward to supporting it.
Thank you, Ms. Farber. Anyone else? Yeah, Ms. Wethel.
I was at a workforce breakfast provided to interns here in the City of Dubuque by GDDC in the last couple weeks. And as part of it, all of the interns had the opportunity to talk about what they wanted in a city to stay. And a vibrant place that had smaller units, but opportunities for walkability, live music, unique experiences to be in a space and eat a meal, outdoor spaces. These are the things they talked about that made them say they would stay here. And so thank you for your efforts to create something that is pretty much exactly what they said they wanted. I'm so excited about this, and thank you for your investment.
Thank you, Ms. Wethel. Anyone else? Yeah, I'm really excited about this project. This is a great one. I'm really excited to be entering into this development agreement as well. To see the Millwork District continue to expand and continue to evolve and continue to become more and more like what people are asking for. I've heard the same things, and I appreciate you bringing that up, Ms. Wethel. So very happy to see this moving forward, and happy to be able to do our part to be able to help in some way. So. Motion here on the table is to receive and file and adopt the resolution. So Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Public hearing number 7 is Sipel Road Water Main Lowering Project public hearing.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second.
A motion by Roussel and a second by Jones. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. City Engineer Gus Zahoyas is recommending City Council approval of the plans, specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost of $322,500 for the Sipel Road Water Main Lowering Project through the adoption of the attached resolution. 50% of the cost will be paid by Quick Trip. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. We are in a public hearing to consider City Council approval of the plan, specification, form of contract, and estimated cost of $322,500 for the Sipel Road Water Main Lowering Project through the adoption of the attached resolution. Do we have any public input on this item tonight? I see no one here in chambers. Anything virtually?
No input.
Thank you. Back to us then for any discussion. All right, seeing none. Seems pretty straightforward to me. Motion here on the table is to receive and file and adopt the resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Public hearing number 8 is public hearing for the Jules, Iowa Department of Transportation 2025 Consolidated Funding Application.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Resnick.
I move to receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Farber.
Got a motion by Resnick, second by Farber. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Director of Transportation Services Ryan Nucky is recommending City Council adopt the attached resolution approving the annual Jewel Consolidated Funding Application to the Iowa Department of Transportation. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. We are in a public hearing to consider City Council adopt the attached resolution approving the annual Jewel Consolidated Funding Application to the Iowa Department of Transportation. Do we have any public input on this item? Once again, seeing no one here in chambers. Anyone virtually?
No. No input.
Thank you. Back to us. Any discussion or questions? No. Ryan, I see you sitting there, so thank you to you and your team for putting this together on an annual basis, putting this before us. Motion here is to receive and file and adopt the resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Next is public input. At this time, anyone participating in the meeting may address the City Council on the action items on the agenda or on matters under the control of the City Council. For all in-person attendees, please approach the podium and state your name and address when the mayor asks if there is any in-person input. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. Individual remarks are limited to 5 minutes, and the overall public input period is limited to 30 minutes. Under the Iowa Open Meetings Law, the City Council can take no formal action on comments given during public input or that do not relate to the action items on the agenda.
Thank you, Adrian. So I'm seeing no public input here. I know all the faces that are sitting out in the crowd there pretty well, so anyone virtually tonight? Okay.
No input.
All right. So seeing no public input, we can move on to action items.
Action item number 1 is 3000 Jackson Dubuque Brewing and Malting Project update.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Sprank.
Motion that we receive and file.
Second.
Motion by Sprank, second by Roussel. Mike, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually don't have any presentation. This is just the memo from Housing and Community Development Director Alexis Steger on the update of the Dubuque Brewing and Malting Project. And Michael Belmont is here in the audience if you have any questions for him.
Great. All right, thank you, Mike. And Mike, do we have any discussion or questions on this item tonight?
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Sprank.
Mike, based on what this article says, or this discussion, he's supposed to be continuing to demo up to the 21st. Is that correct?
Yes, Mike Belmont, Assistant Director, Housing and Community Development. I did, since this memo, I did receive an update from David Zinser, the contractor. He is mobilizing this week and intends to continue construction on Friday primarily for the remaining portion of the building that is that we identified as not being stable on 30th Street. So he's going to take down those portions that were identified as unstable this week and clean up 30th Street. And the intent is to put up the privacy fence. And then once the site is deemed safe to turn over to salvage operations, then that will continue. As far as the schedule on the salvage operations, I believe that we have not got any formal response on how long that will take. We have given an order saying they have until August 31st, but I have not heard back on their schedule for that or who might even be doing the salvage.
Thank you, Mike. Krana, what happens after August 31st? Are we able to start fining him if he doesn't pick up his mess?
We would meet and assess what our options are and evaluate what's the best path forward.
Okay.
There would be a number of different avenues to explore.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Rezoning?
Thank you. So I go down there quite a bit, whether it's the bike trail or the Copper Kettle, very popular with our family. So I've noticed that not much has changed since it first got knocked down and then pushed, stuff pushed away from the street. And so in your estimation then, things are going along probably as scheduled, and are we happy about how things are going, or what are the binds? I know citizens are looking for us to do the right thing. What do you say?
Right. You asked the question, are things going according to schedule? I would say no. We expected that there would be no significant delays in the cleanup of the site. However, we were waiting for some clearance documents from the demolition, and we issued a stop work order at some point because we had not received those. So we wanted to make sure that the site was properly cleared. We had conversations with the DNR, so we weren't. They gave us some assurances that we didn't have anything to be concerned about, but we weren't getting the documentation that we needed. And so once we received that, then we lifted that stop work order. And unfortunately, there was a delay there, which Zinser Construction wasn't able to leave all their equipment on site. They had to demobilize some equipment and move on to another project, which they've done. That was some of the delay this week, is that they have workers at another site. They are bringing those workers back this week, and will continue with the portions of the 30th Street building that need to be stabilized. Once that's done, I believe, in conversations with the engineers, I believe that we can, once the fence is back up and the debris is cleared from the perimeter of the site, I believe that we will be able to reopen 30th Street. That's the plan near term.
So do you have an idea, a vision of what this property might look like a year from now or 3 years from now? Are they going to plan to redevelop, or is this thing slowly going to fall apart and we need to force people to clean up? How do you see it?
So the expectation has been given quite clearly that the intent is that we have a clean site that is something that somebody could come in and develop, whether it's Mr. Emerson or if he sells the property or however it is. But our expectation is that the debris is removed. As you know, the site is zoned so that the material could be stored on site, but it can't just be stored on site in big piles. It has to be palletized, stored neatly. That is part of the process, or the intent of the salvage operation is to palletize material so that it could be sold from the site. Those expectations have been made very clear, but we're trying to twist the arms as much as we can, but I think we're a little limited in what we can do.
So you feel that everything should be at least clean, orderly, and safe as far as the remaining buildings?
Yes.
All right.
Part of when there was a bridge connecting 3040 to 3000, when that bridge came down, there's a couple of areas that we have some concern about. Now, those areas are interior to the site, so we don't believe that it's a public safety issue. If it were to collapse, it would collapse internal to the site. However, part of the order that we've given is to clear an area so the engineers can get in there to take a look at what it would take to stabilize that lintel over the opening that's remaining. And of course, at some point, they'll have to close up that opening where the bridge was.
Thank you for your help with tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Mr. Jones.
Realistically, 30th Street, are we looking at a month, 2 months, 2 weeks?
Given the amount of material that's there and the equipment that Zinsser does have access to, I believe that the material that's on 30th Street, once the building is stabilized, the material could be relocated on site. Once that happens and it's deemed safe to reopen, I believe that could happen. I think it could happen within a week and a half.
That'll be welcome news to the folks living on 30th Street.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So, Mike, thank you very much. One of the things I want to point out here is every step of the way, at least from my perspective, and I would hope from our perspective, the city staff have been right on this. From the moment we said, let's start putting this on the agenda every single week, they've done everything they need to do. They've held to the standards that they set. I haven't seen any concerns about that. And that said, so I appreciate that. Thank you very much for the work that you're doing. With that said, I don't see any reason to continue to put this as an action item. I appreciated that it was there tonight, since it's an update on something that we've been doing. I think it's worked well to keep this as a consent agenda item, just to have an update. And it does. I don't think that puts the staff out too much to provide an update for the public on a regular basis. I think that's something we could ask for. I just want to make sure that we're all okay with that going forward. Okay. All right. I'm seeing concurrence generally. So if that works for you, Mike, as a standard.
Happy to provide updates.
Yeah. Then on the agenda from now on, especially, to Mr. Jones' question, I mean, and Mr. Resnick's, we've got some things that really still need to be cleaned up. As we start to think about timelines, it's nice to, I think, provide those public updates on a regular basis, and an agenda works well for doing that. But I think a consent item is fine. We always have the right to pull it. Anybody in the community does. So we can do that. Okay. Great. So that'll be our plan going forward. Well, thank you very much. I don't have anything further. I don't see anything further from anyone else. So motion here is to receive and file that update. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 2 is recent City of Dubuque website improvements.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Farber.
I move that we receive and file and view the presentation. Second.
Got a motion by Farber and a second by Roussel. I think we're going straight to Randy for this one.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council. Randy Gale, Public Information Officer, and I'm actually just going to have a very brief intro, then I'm going to turn things over to Communications Specialist Kristen Hill, because she was the lead on these 2 significant improvements to the city's website. And as you all know, the city's website is an it's a critical tool for us really to do business with residents, or residents and stakeholders do business with the city. It's a major transparency tool for us. And as we talk about it at our budget presentation every year, it's visited hundreds of thousands of times per year. So it's an important tool for us, and there's a couple important changes that we want to have a chance to talk to you about briefly tonight. So with that, I'm going to let Kristen talk about what those changes are, and we'll both be available for questions after that. Thank you.
Kristen Hill, Communication Specialist in the Public Information Office. As Randy said, I'm here to give you just a quick tour of the website redesign. So we do this about every 4 to 5 years, and it's an opportunity for us to review our website layout, our navigation, and the aesthetics of the site. And we started this process back in November 2023, and we finished it and launched it in late May, so it's been up now for just a few weeks. This redesign, structurally, the site hasn't really changed. So if I start at the top here, I'll just kind of go through each section and tell you a little bit about each of the new features. So this government, residents, doing business, and visit sections are the main navigation, and those haven't changed. So they'll be familiar to users. The get notified, report a concern, and the contact us. They used to be icons underneath the homepage banner, but now we have them here at the top of the site. So something new about the top of the site that I really like is that we've docked this main navigation. So when you scroll on the site, that mega menu is always going to be at the top for easy access. And then moving down to the common request section, one thing we know is that about 60% of people view our website on their mobile phone. So we had a couple goals with this redesign. One, over the last few years, we've been really working to strengthen the city's brand, use consistent colors, graphic elements, and fonts. So we've made those changes since the last redesign. So it was important that this refresh represented the city's newer brand. And so when you go to the city website, it's consistent with the other materials that our office is producing, so it looks like the city of Dubuque. But also, since 60% of them are coming to the site on their mobile phones, we really wanted it to be mobile responsive and optimized for mobile. And so you'll see on this homepage layout, which is where most of the changes have taken place, is we have a lot of these different containers and buttons and widgets that all resize really nice and are responsive on either a mobile phone or a desktop or a tablet. So that was one of the main goals here. And so we also want people to find the information they're looking for as quickly as possible. So with over 30 city departments, the city's website's rather large. It has a lot of information, and having that information is necessary for transparency and for people to find the details and the nitty-gritty stuff for the processes they're navigating and the information that they need. But also, a lot of people use the city website for more transactional things like paying their utility bill, paying a parking ticket, looking up open swim hours at Flora and Sutton pools, whatever it may be. So we want those people to also find that information really quickly. And so one of the things we track and we report on for our budget presentation is our top visited pages. And so we are able to look at our analytics and at any given time and know what our top visited pages are. So that is how we came up with these common requests. What you need at your fingertips right at the top of the page. If you're on mobile, all those buttons are stacked right at the top, and so you can get to those most frequently visited pages really quickly. So the nice thing about these is that they're all customizable. So we can change how many we want displayed, we can change the icon, we can change where it links to, and we can just base that off of those analytics. So I just looked up today what is our most visited pages, and so I reordered these today, and so that on mobile they go in order of these columns. So pay utility bill was number 1, Flora and Sutton pools, no surprise, was number 2 for given the season. So what's good is that we can continue to change these and make sure they're relevant for the time of year, because Flora and Sutton pools, Miller Riverview Campground, probably not our most visited pages during the winter months. So it's really nice that that's all customizable. moving down to this next section here, we have 4 kind of spotlight buttons that go across the screen. They're really nice graphically to break up the page, but also it gives us an opportunity to Dubuqueify our website. We shout out to the media services team, Felicia Carner and Eric Muller. They take really beautiful photos of our community. So this is an opportunity to showcase those photos. Here we have a child playing Comiskey Park. This one is from a Miracle League of Dubuque game. They had a costume day last fall at one of their league games on Saturday mornings. And so, again, totally customizable. We can swap up the photos, swap out the text and where they're linking to at any time. Summertime, Parks and Rec, obviously something that we want to highlight. There's lots of people signing up for recreation programs and visiting city parks. The Get Involved, this is a great way for people to stay involved in what's happening at the city, but also ways they can get involved in the community by like joining a board or commission, maybe participating in city life, going to Volunteer DBQ to look up volunteer opportunities, maybe joining a neighborhood association or volunteering with Miracle League of Dubuque, all those different ways that they can get involved in the community. Stay connected leads to our Notify Me, which is how people can sign up for email and text alerts. So they just have to put in their email address here and they can enter their phone number and just check either this email button or phone button, one or the other or both, to sign up for different email lists. And this is how you can really stay up to date on city projects and initiatives, and as well as with city departments who are issuing information and news. Join our team. It's just a way for people to see all the different job opportunities there are at the city of Dubuque, and it goes over also like our spirit statement, which describes our values and how we approach our daily work, some testimonials from employees. And for those who might not be familiar with Dubuque but are thinking about pursuing a job here, they can get to know Dubuque by exploring these links here. The next section is news and events. On the left, we have all the, well, not all, this is our most recent news releases that we've published, but if you do want to see all, you just need to click on this View All Updates here. This is all of the news releases that the Public Information Office and other departments publish for the public. And I looked earlier today, this goes back to 2017, so it's a pretty good archive of all the news that we publish. And then on the right-hand side, we have just a listing of the city council meetings, also advisory commission meetings, board of adjustment meetings. These are really focused on those public meetings that people can participate in. And the same thing here, if you want to dive in further, you can do the view all events, and there's also a calendar view if you would rather see that versus a listing. The next section is new for our homepage. We have this section on the city council, so we have a photo of each of our elected representatives. And at the top, we have these quick links so people can easily access the agendas and minutes, meetings as when they are held, where they're held, where you can live stream them, or where you can watch the archive. Also where you can get different contact information and when the deadlines are for submitting agenda items. And then we have the contact us, which is a place where they can go and see all of your contact information all in one place. We thought it was important to add the city council information. As Randy said, this is a way for us to engage the public, and so we want it to be easy and quick for people to contact you if they would like to provide their public input. And then as we scroll to the bottom, I want to draw your attention here to the icon on the left. This is the Moncito software that we installed in January. So this is all about accessibility. And so this allows people to personalize the website so that it functions best for them. So they can change the font size, or the type of font I should say, sans serif versus serif. They also have one for people with dyslexia. This is supposed to be helpful for them. They can change the font size. Oh my, you can make it up to 500% larger. You can adjust the text spacing so you can have more space between the letters. You can have a larger cursor size if you would like. You can change the contrast, making it just grayscale too there. And you can highlight different elements. So here, all of the links on the home page are highlighted. And here, all of the headings are highlighted. So there's different options there. If you ever want to reset it, you just push this little reset view button and it goes back to how the site was originally designed. And then it also has this focus option where if you just want to kind of zero in on one part of the site, you can go ahead and do that. And you can also use a reading guide if you would like. So this is really important. We serve all the residents of Dubuque, and we want our site to be as accessible as possible and for it to work best for them. And so this personalization option is really nice. So that's on the public-facing side of Montecito. On the back end, we also have an admin side that we can log into. It scans our website, and it lets us know if there are any broken links or potential misspellings or any possible ADA accessibility issues that we need to manually review. And so those are sent to us each week. And now it's a pretty new software for us. We're still learning it, and we're still learning a lot about ADA accessibility. It's a pretty big topic. And so we do have training sessions that come along with this software. And so I've done a couple of those and have another one coming up. So continuing to learn about ADA accessibility and how we can continue to make our site better and work well for everyone and meet their needs. So that is kind of just a quick run through of the major changes on our site. And if you have any questions, Randy and I would be happy to answer them.
All right, well, thank you very much, Kristen and Randy, and really appreciate the run through to be able to show us a little bit more of the functionality. I love that we are continuing to make this better for residents to be able to see and access everything they need to access, because obviously it's a popular place going to the City of Dubuque website to figure this out. So we really appreciate all the things that have been done here. Any discussion or questions? Mr. Resnick.
Yes, thank you. So a lot of great things. It looks good. And you talked about ADA compliance. So I was just visiting the site here, and one of the things that ADA asks us to do or tells us to do is that we need to have these video captions. And I was trying to get a video to work on this machine. It's not working. But so we have video captioning under all that. Even if you have the YouTube, you can go to the YouTube directly. Does the YouTube do that as well when they follow that?
I'll let Randy answer.
Yeah, and actually Felicia Karn would be best suited to answer this question, but any video that we put on YouTube is captioned. So all the council meetings and work sessions are uploaded to YouTube. A lot of our programs are uploaded to YouTube as well, and they're automatically captioned by YouTube. But now the council meetings they're not live captions, but we have to caption them to broadcast them with captions on City Channel Dubuque. So after the live broadcast, whenever they're replayed on City Channel Dubuque, they are captioned.
And that's done automatically, like some...
We have to send it's a service that we subscribe to, so they're not automatically captioned. We send the file, and it's captioned by a private service then before it's uploaded before it's broadcast.
I see, and there are some things that don't work in this building. Is that one of those things that don't work in this building? It's been doing the circle of death here for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, videos are dependent upon a pretty good feed, and the Wi-Fi here may be getting used a lot. How did I do, Felicia? Did I answer that correctly? I was running through the hallway. Okay. It would, it's hard to say if you're trying to watch on YouTube or through the website. I'm not sure what you're trying to watch right now.
Well, I'm trying to watch Delivering Dubuque City Services.
Okay.
So
it just doesn't like that video.
Well, I don't know why it wouldn't. It has our mayor as one of its sponsors there.
Hello, everyone. Felicia Karner, Multimedia Specialist with the City of Dubuque. As you know, we're here at the City of Dubuque. Our closed captioning services, we do pay to have those captioned through a service, and they are human captions, so they take a little bit of time to come back. But the beauty of AI, it does automated captioning right when we upload it to YouTube, right when, as we're speaking right now, Facebook is doing an auto-generated AI captioning format. So that is provided immediately for folks, but then we do upload them, and those are accessible on our YouTube page and then also on our media storage archive page.
Thank you for that, because I'm glad we're doing it in a two-step process, because I think we've all seen YouTube videos that are like they're supposedly giving us what they're saying, and it's close, but it's not. And so we want the right stuff.
So that's the benefit of using those human captions, because somebody is physically going in and transcribing all of that. A huge benefit of having it on YouTube as well is when we do upload those accurate captioning files, all of the translations that YouTube does is going to be that much more accurate. So it's going to refer to the file that we upload to do those auto translates.
Great. Thank you for the information. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Just one quick
Ms. Farber,
question.
yeah.
Is the auto translation AI driven? Or is someone actually is it a nuanced software? I mean,
that's only available on YouTube, and that is a service that we have free on YouTube. So anything that's available through the Google platform, that creates the auto translation. But then it follows along with the video, so it times everything out as well.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay. Well, thank you for all that very helpful information. I'm really glad that we had a chance to sit and look at this for a few minutes tonight and put that on an agenda for everybody. Looking forward to hearing how it's all working here as the future is upon us. Okay, the motion here was to receive and file, hear that presentation. So Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 3 is Dubuque named the 2024 Iowa Community of Character.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Resnick.
I move to receive and file.
Second by Sprank.
Motion by Resnick, second by Sprank. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan, and what I'm going to read to you is a media release that was issued this week. And it's titled, Dubuque Named 2024 Community of Character. Dubuque has been named Iowa's 2024 Community of Character by the Robert D. and Billy Ray Center at Drake University. The Ray Center annually recognizes Iowa individuals, organizations, and communities that show the center's 6 pillars of character counts: trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and good citizenship. Dubuque was nominated by Robert Palmer, the former General Counsel and Director of Government Affairs with the Iowa League of Cities. And this is his quote: Dubuque is a great city with a lot of heart and city officials that care. The community has a story of population loss followed by stabilization, recovery, and continued growth, close quotes, said Palmer. Then his next quote is, the city officials are passionate about the wide variety of residents they have and what it takes to meet their needs. Language barriers, employment, and embracing cultural identity are challenges that has Dubuque faced and overcame gracefully, close quotes. Now a quote from Mayor Brad Kavanaugh that is in the media release. Dubuque residents should be proud of this acknowledgement. Our community has certainly demonstrated tremendous character in responding to past and current challenges. Further quoting the mayor, change is not always easy, but Dubuque is navigating change with a commitment to creating an equitable community of choice, close quotes. Scott Raker, Executive Director of the Robert D. and Billy Ray Center, said, and I quote, we are honored to celebrate Dubuque as the 2024 Community of Character for the Iowa Character Awards. Dubuque is an inspiring example of how communities can work together to promote positive values and make a meaningful impact on the lives of all their residents, close quotes. The Iowa Character Awards will be presented at a special event in August at Drake University. The Ray Center honors 2 of Drake University's most respected alumni, Robert D. and Billy Ray, whose humanitarian efforts, character, and leadership set an inspirational example for generations. The center strives to improve civility through character development and ethical leadership. The Ray Center's vision is to transform lives and strengthen communities by equipping individuals and communities with strategies to practice good character by demonstrating trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and good citizenship. Through public awareness and programming grounded in research, the Ray Center helps create strong, vibrant communities that value positive, healthy relationships and respectful behavior. Its initiatives benefit people of all ages and are easily adaptable for families, schools, workplaces, athletic teams, organizations, and more. And that's the end of the media release. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. And you know, I think this is something that we can all be proud of here tonight, but then the entire City of Dubuque staff and all the residents and everyone who works in the City of Dubuque. I mean, this is, I think this is, you know, when you have people from other cities in Iowa looking from the outside towards us, and they see us and in this way as the community of character for 2024, it's definitely something that we can definitely be proud of. So thank you to everyone who just works hard every day to make this place such a great place to live, because it really is, and it's great to be recognized for it. And of course, thank you to the Ray Center for the work that they do to lift up places like Dubuque. All right. Well, with that, the motion here is to receive and file that. Thank you for reading that for us, Mike. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprague.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Farber. Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 4 is proposed seaside application, Dubuque Cascade Project, Community Action for Sustainable, Clean, and Democratized Energy.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to receive and file and approve.
Second by Sprague.
Motion by Roussel, and a second by Sprank. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Director of Sustainability Gina Bell and Sustainable Innovation Consultant Dave Lyons are recommending City Council approval of the city's application for the U.S. Department of Energy Communities Sparking Investments in Transformative Energy, or CSITE, program grant for the Dubuque Cascade Project. The Cascade Project total budget of $3,751,344. Of this figure, the city requests $2,063,234 from CSITE and plans to leverage $1,500,533 in direct pay from clean energy tax credits or investment tax credits. The program requires a minimum local match of 5%, and we recommend a match of $187,567. The match cannot come from federal sources, but may be met through staff time, municipal budget, philanthropic funds, other contributions from third-party entities, and in-kind services. A cash match is preferred due to the complexities of record keeping for in-kind and staff time contributions. To the maximum extent possible, we would use existing planned expenditures for the local match. The Cascade Project would deploy solar installations on city-owned or controlled facilities and low and moderate income residences located in disadvantaged communities and energy communities to generate innovative cost reductions for low and moderate income households, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, improve the resiliency of facilities that serve disadvantaged communities, provide opportunities for local business and workforce development in the green economy, and enhance equitable access to renewable energy through a new sustainable reinvestment fund. The city would work with community anchor organizations, including the Carnegie Stout Public Library, the Multicultural Family Center, and Crescent Community Health Center, as well as education and workforce development groups, including the Northeast Iowa Community College, local union hall, and solar installation companies. Acknowledging that 60% of the households in Dubuque's low-income census tracts are renters, this distributed approach creates the opportunity for all low and moderate income households, not just homeowners, to benefit. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. Any discussion? Well, as always, I appreciate Gina Bell's work as the Director of Sustainability in looking for grants like this and being able to move something like this forward. This is an exciting development here, to have the opportunity potentially to outfit municipal buildings with solar, but then also continue the work that's been started with low to moderate income houses and households, I should say, for the opportunity to have solar projects there too. And this is, I love that we continue to go after grants like this one. All right, motion here is to receive and file and adopt the resolution, and approve. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprague.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Wethel.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 5 is 2024 pavement marking project, award public improvement contract.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Resnick.
I move to receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Farber.
Motion by Resnick, second by Farber. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. City Engineer Gus Ahoyas is recommending City Council adopt a resolution awarding the construction contract for the 2024 pavement marking project to Ostrom Painting and Sandblasting in the amount of $224,025.29, which includes the alternate bid items for the proposed bike lane pilot project pavement markings. The routes for the bike lane pilot project were determined based upon citizen input from a significant community engagement campaign. The proposed bike lane pilot project has been shared with citizens and property owners along the corridor that would be impacted with lane reconfiguration and parking removal. Based on the alternate bid prices received for the bike lane pilot project in the amount of $17,771.89, the city has sufficient funding in the fiscal year 25 pavement marking capital improvement budget to incorporate the bike lane pavement markings as part of the 2024 pavement marking project. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request mayor and city council approval.
Thank you, Mike. And as we all recall, a couple of weeks ago when we were talking, there was a question still on whether we would have the funds to be able to do those bike lanes, so it's good to see that in there. Any other discussion or questions? Okay. Motion here is to receive and file, adopt the resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprague.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kavanaugh. Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 6 is award construction contract Tamarack Sanitary Sewer Extension Project.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Jones.
Move to receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Wethel.
Motion by Jones, second by Wethel. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. City Engineer Gus Ahoyas is recommending City Council award the construction contract for the Tamarack Sanitary Sewer Extension Project construction contract pending Iowa Finance Authority approval through the adoption of the enclosed resolution to Boomerang Corporation in the amount of $675,319.50. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request mayor and city council approval.
Thank you, Mike. Any discussion? Seeing none. Motion here is to receive and file, adopt the resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprague.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Farber. Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick. Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 7 is award construction contract Twin Ridge Sanitary Sewer Extension and Lagoon Abandonment Project.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Jones.
Move to receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Sprague.
Motion by Jones, second by Sprague. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. City Engineer Gus Ahoyas is recommending City Council award the construction contract for the Twin Ridge Sanitary Sewer Extension and Lagoon Abandonment Project pending Iowa Finance Authority approval through the adoption of the enclosed resolution to Chig-Fry Excavating in the amount of $624,975.70. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request mayor and city council approval.
Thank you, Mike. Any discussion? Seeing none. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprague.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 8 is award construction contract Granger Creek Lift Station Improvements.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Sprague.
Oh, I motion that we receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Farber.
Motion by Sprague, second by Farber. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. City Engineer Gus Ahoyas is recommending City Council award the construction contract for the Granger Creek Lift Station Improvements Project pending Iowa Finance Authority approval through the adoption of the enclosed resolution to Tricon General Construction in the amount of $1,221,000. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request mayor and city council approval.
Thank you, Mike. Any discussion? Seeing none. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprague.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Wethel.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 9 is award of public improvement construction contract for the Eagle Valley, Westbrook, and English Ridge Subdivision Parks Development Project.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Russell.
I move to receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Sprague.
Motion by Russell, second by Sprank. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Leisure Services Director Marie Ware is recommending City Council adopt the resolution to approve the Eagle Valley, Westbrook, and English Ridge Subdivision Parks Development Project and award the public improvement construction contract in the amount of $719,550 to McDermott Construction. The Park Division is working on numerous other ARPA projects, including Jefferson Park Wall Replacement Project and Flora Park Volleyball Pickleball Court Renovation Project. Estimated savings from these and other Park Division ARPA projects will allow for the additional funding of $114,578 for the Eagle Valley, Westbrook, and English Ridge Subdivision Parks Development Project. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Farber.
Maybe that it's just getting late, but is it 719,550 plus the 114, or is the 114,578 part of that 719,000?
I'm going to say it's part of it. Marie agrees with that. It's
And the
part
other
of
is
it.
just savings then from the other projects which are now completed, I understand. And you got a shout out, by the way, for the pickleball courts on Flora Park. Thank you.
And that's why Marie hangs out to party late, right? That's right. Walk right in at the end there.
There you go.
Perfect. All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Farber. All right, motion here is to receive and file, adopt the resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 10 is consultant selection for Unified Development Code update.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Farber.
I move we receive and file and approve.
Second by Wethel.
Motion by Farber, second by Wethel. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Planning Services Director Wally Warnemont is recommending that the City Council authorize the City Manager to negotiate and execute a contract with Camaros to undertake the update to the Unified Development Code, the contract not to exceed $100,000 in cost. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. Any discussion?
Mr. Resnick. I tell you, in my time on the council, I cannot believe how many times the Unified Development Code has been changed. And we're always updating it every, once a month. And so I just thought it seemed a more stable situation. And we're asking somebody to come in here up to $100,000 to get this right. And do they guarantee a year without any updates?
Well, I'm going to ask Wally Warnemont to come up and defend himself on this one.
That question was a little facetious, obviously, but how are things going to change after this?
Yeah, so Unified or Wally Warnemont, Planning Services Director, in case you forgot who I was earlier, right? The Unified Development Code update, first of all, the last time we updated was 2009. And since 2009, we've adopted an Imagine Dubuque comprehensive plan, an equitable poverty reduction prevention plan, a climate action control plan, an arts and master cultural plan, and I'm forgetting one other plan in there. But the Unified Development Code it's the teeth. That's the ordinance. That's the law. The other ones are plans, right? They're just a plan that's put out there. But how can we move forward to create more affordable housing? So what we look at with the update to the Unified Development Code, especially with the Developers Roundtable and the other discussions that we get involved with, is how can we remove barriers to development? How can we make it easier to go through? How can we update the code to be more modern? There's a lot of things with our design of our code. It's called Euclidean zoning. A lot of things are outdated, like a mail catalog center, which is like your old J.C. Penney's call down, and but the other different uses. But there's quite a few things that are involved with it, and it's not a complete rewrite. Okay, a complete rewrite would cost us a lot more than $100,000. But this is also going to bring us up to make sure we're following the state code requirements with all the things that are happening with preemption, with home-based businesses, telecommunications, a lot of things that are coming through the process. So Yeah, the last time we did an update was 2009. Now you hear us amend the Unified Development Code where we do a little bit of pieces at a time as we look for changes. You know, for instance, we just had, quite a few with daycare and with St. Mary's Inn and some other ones, and then just, recently with parking and the Jackson Park and Historic District. So those are little things that we can touch on. This is an overhaul of the entire code, so.
So the term update is what the difference is. So we haven't had an update since 2009, but we've amended it 200 times.
Oh, yeah, we amend it. So it's a living document. It is a living document, and you make one little piece at a time. When we make those amendments, this will look at it as an entire whole. So, yeah.
And you think that's essential because these amendments are just Band-Aids?
Correct, yeah. And then, but the other thing is, we're also looking at all these master plans that have been adopted to incorporate. Is there certain things where we hire this consultant that's done hundreds of plans across the United States? Are there certain things that we not implementing that are being used in communities that may be very beneficial when we look at certain things? And there's a lot of zoning reform and discussion going on and have that public input and that conversation in order to look at that update to the Unified Development Code.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Since we have Wally here again. Time since 2009, so it makes sense that we need to take a look at something like this and be able to put a little more together with it. So thank you very much for your work on it.
Thanks.
Okay, well, motion here is to receive and file and approve. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kavanaugh. Farber. Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 11 is remedy for police department supervisor/manager wage compression.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
move to receive and file and approve.
Second by Wethel.
Motion by Jones and a second by Wethel. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Chief Human Resources Officer Shelley Stickford is recommending City Council approve salary percentage increases and longevity adjustment effective July 1st, 2024, in order to remedy the wage salary compression that would exist for the ranks of police lieutenant, police captain, assistant police chief, and police chief related to the percentage wage increases provided to union police ranks per the CBA effective on July 1st, 2024. So that's the collective bargaining agreement. To begin to address the identified issues of wage compression occurring between police department supervisor, management ranks, and union positions, for which there was a mere $74 per pay period pay difference between the highest union position step and the lowest step of the supervisory non-union position, effective in January 2024, the City Council approved a 5% wage increase for non-collective bargaining sworn personnel in the positions of lieutenant, captain, and assistant chief. The police chief position received a 6% increase. In the late fall of 2023 and early months of 2024, information was received from the compensation and classification vendor Carlson Detman Consulting that indicated gaps in wages for police personnel along with recommendations for percentage increases in order for the city to remain competitive for recruiting new qualified talent and retaining existing talent. This information was used for bargaining with the Dubuque Police Protective Association, or DPPA, newly collectively bargained for contract that becomes effective July 1st, 2024. As a result, 3 significant changes were bargained for and included in the ratified DPPA contract that goes into effect on July 1st, 2025. The first was an increased number of steps for the wage plan that includes the patrol officer and police corporal positions represented by the DPPA. The second provided for targeted increases versus across-the-board increases to address the identified gaps in competitiveness of wages at certain intervals or steps for each of the 2 position levels on the DPPA wage plan. And third was an increase in longevity pay from 3% after 15 years of service to 3.5%, and from 4% after 20 years of service to 5%. These actions over the course of the 3 years fiscal year 25, which starts July 1st, 2024, fiscal year 26, and fiscal year 27, DPPA wage plan increases permits the city to close the identified competitive wage gaps per the CDC classification and compensation review and conclusion. The bargained for increases addresses the concerns about competitive wages for the recruitment and retention of represented police personnel. However, the base pay difference between the top step corporal, which is union, and the bottom step lieutenant, which is supervisor manager and not union, and all the other manager levels would now experience compression again when the DPPA wage plan goes into effect on July 1st, 2024. To remedy the resulting compression, police supervisory management positions would need to receive the same percentage wage increases as is reflected at the top step of the DPPA wage plan for the highest union position in the July 1st, 2024 DPPA CBA wage plan for each fiscal year. Specifically, number 1, fiscal year 2025, 10.25%. Number 2, fiscal year 2026, 7.25%. Number 3, fiscal year 2027, 5.6%. In addition, the supervisory longevity schedule should be revised to follow the longevity schedule as bargained for in the collective bargaining agreement. The ranks of police lieutenant, police captain, assistant police chief, and police chief would receive 3.5% longevity after 15 years of service instead of the current 3%, and 5% longevity after 20 years of service instead of 4%. The recommended changes to remedy compression that would occur on July 1st, 2024 will cost approximately $268,125.02. Jennifer Larson, Chief Financial Officer for the City of Dubuque, has reviewed the data and information and concurs with the likely cost increase. Funding for these increases in fiscal year 2025 would come from savings created by staff vacancies. In future budgets, the cost would be built into the annual budget process. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. What discussion do we have?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Jones.
This just makes sense. When you're promoted at work into a supervisory position, there ought to be a difference in your lifestyle. There ought to be time to think about that new car you've been wanting for the last 10 years. And this allows us to give a chunk of that prestige to these officers, command officers up and coming. And I think you all know, because you've heard it 100 times, that the other piece that comes with getting promoted is you're probably, by the time you're looking at a lieutenant's job, you might be working Mondays through Thursdays in the daytime when all the people are waving at you with their whole hand. And now you're going to middle of the night, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays to take charge of a shift. So that's a big lifestyle change right there that's a negative. And to keep these positions attractive, the only tool that we have is wages and benefits. So we've got to fix this gap in the wages and benefits by making this adjustment, and it's clear to me that it has to happen.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Ms. Wetham.
I read this and I contacted the city manager and just said, am I reading this right? This is what we talked about in budget, and this is what they said they wanted and they needed. And as a priority is police department full staffing, I hope that our department hears that we are doing this because we are listening, and we want the longevity to be there for our city with them. We value them, and I'm really grateful we were able to do this as a city. So thank you for making it happen. Thank you for Jennifer Larson for doing the numbers, and I'm looking forward to voting for this.
Thank you, Ms. Wethel. Yeah, and I guess I would point out that this is entirely expected, right? I mean, we talked about it in budget. We'd already talked about this and done this one time, but then we actually approved a raise in the most recent negotiations with the rest of the force. So obviously we needed to take another look at this, and I really agree that I appreciate the fact that we're doing it so quickly and taking decisive action here. Okay, yeah, Mike.
And Mr. Mayor, the other thing I'll mention is that we're currently working on the fire department, so that'll be on your next agenda.
Okay. Nice. Thank you, Mike. All right, motion here is to receive and file and approve this item. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 12 is Board and Commission ordinance amendments.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Jones.
I move to receive and file the communications and further move that the requirement that these proposed 22 ordinances be considered and voted on for passage at two council meetings prior to the meeting, which they are finally to be passed, be suspended.
Second.
You got a motion by Jones, second by Roussel, and Krenna is currently counting the number of ordinances that are on the page. Mike, or I'm sorry, Adrian. So get so used to turning left. Adrian, please.
Yep. Thank you. Adrian Breitfelder, City Clerk. As Councilmember Jones mentioned, there are 22 ordinances being recommended, and essentially this is every single board and commission. That's why you see 22 here. So I'll provide just a general overview and a little history of what came to these recommendations. And I would say there's two main reasons that we're recommending these amended ordinances. The first is the repeal of the gender balance requirements for state mandated boards and commissions. So the City Council may recall that 9 of our boards and commissions that are required at the state level are subject to state of Iowa gender balance requirements, section 69.16A of state code. And that code section essentially said that all appointed boards, commissions, committees had to be gender balanced, and they did leave some opportunities to allow a commission to not be gender balanced as long as certain requirements were fulfilled. However, during the 2023 legislative session, the Iowa legislature passed Senate File 2096, which essentially repeals gender balance requirements for those boards. That is effective July 1st. And so for our 9 boards and commissions that had previously been subject to those requirements, we're recommending that that language be stricken since the language currently specifies that section of state code. So it doesn't make sense to include it anymore since it will no longer exist after July 1st. The other piece that really tied in all boards and commissions as part of these recommendations is we looked at making some clarifications regarding meeting minutes that are filed with the City Council. It currently says in code that all boards and commissions have to file meeting minutes with the City Council, and that's typically done through the consent agenda. Consent item number 1, typically on every City Council agenda, is for boards and commission minutes for council to receive and file. But we recognized there was a discrepancy that it didn't specify whether it's unapproved or approved meeting minutes, and we recognized that was providing some discrepancies and confusion among city staff about what specific meeting minutes needed to be filed with the council. So amendment being recommended to every single board or commission is to specify that all minutes after approval by the commission. So it does specify approved minutes. I will clarify as well, though, that boards and commissions are welcome to file unapproved minutes with the council if they deem that the content would be necessary for the council to receive in a more timely manner. The best example of that would be our Zoning Advisory Commission, since they have their regular meetings once a month. They often will want to submit their unapproved meeting minutes so council has the opportunity to view their public hearing discussion as part of your discussion about public hearings, such as tonight, for example. So by making that recommendation to amend the meeting minutes requirement, that essentially amends every single board and commission, hence the 22 ordinances. And since we knew that we were going to make those 22 amendments, we figured it was a good opportunity to really do as much of a deep dive as we possibly could into every single board or commission to see, is there any other language that needs to be cleaned up, any other chance for uniformity among all of the boards and commissions in terms of language. So there's multiple different examples of that. I won't go into every single one just because it can be extensive, but I will note that I did include a table as a supporting document that summarizes the changes for each board and commission, and I am happy to answer any specific questions related to it. I would say that just most of the other changes that are recommended are really meant to align the language among all boards and commissions. One other example I will call out is we did notice that some boards and commissions did have an age requirement specified, but not every single board or commission did. And through reviewing Iowa Code with Senior Counsel Barry Lindahl, he could not find anywhere in Iowa Code that specifies an age requirement for service on boards or commissions. So we found it was inequitable for some of our commissions to require that age requirement while others did not. So that's one of the repeals that's being recommended. And as I look through, just the other repeals are just really meant to kind of clean up language to add simplicity or to add uniformity, consistency among all of the boards or commissions. So I think that pretty much summarizes it. But again, I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any specific questions about the amendments.
Excellent. Yeah.
Does the removal of the age requirement permit someone who hasn't reached the age of majority to serve on a board?
Doesn't, I'm sorry, reach the age of?
Age of majority, which in Iowa is what, 18?
If they, I'm
State code defines the age of majority when one becomes able to vote, do other certain privileges of adulthood, and it's currently defined as 18 for most things, 21 for other things. But could a high school student then apply to be on a board or commission? I'm not saying I'm against that.
Yeah, I would say based on this, we don't have it at least codified that that's a requirement. So I would say, I don't know if Krenna has any opinion on that, but I would say that individual would be eligible for consideration. I mean, and as it goes, even though it's not codified, it's always up to city council to determine if an individual applicant is qualified for any boards or commission positions. So while this doesn't codify it in our city code, it always is up to the council in terms of determining appointments.
In my understanding of Senior Counsel Lindahl's research, he was unable to find anything that documented or that tied appointment to age of majority. If that was something the council was interested in, that could be a policy that could be enacted across the board. I will say historically, you have had some cross representatives or some specific spots that were held on certain commissions for minors. So, I mean, I think it's probably more a policy decision than it is a legal decision.
Other discussion or questions? This was obviously a lot of work to scour through something like this. So thank you very much for doing it, Adrian, from your office. And then also, Krenna, the folks in your office too. Adrian, you specifically, I know, pointed out Senior Counsel Barry Lindahl and Paralegal Jenny Messerich for doing all that work. So thank you for doing that. Yeah, it makes sense to me that, you know, these things obviously need to change based on Iowa code, but then the fact that we have the opportunity to be able to look at everything in a little more comprehensive way. So thanks for doing that. An interesting question that Mr. Jones just asked. Might open us up to more possibilities here and seeing some interesting thoughts from younger people potentially. So
It's called workforce development.
it's called many things, and that's one of them. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Well, motion here is to receive and file and waive the 3 readings and adopt, obviously, the 22 ordinances by account that everybody has counted. So, Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Farber. Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Jones.
I move final consideration and passage of the several ordinances.
Second.
Got a motion by Jones, second by Roussel. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 13 is work session request, Central Avenue and White Street Corridor Traffic Study.
Mr. Mayor.
Frank.
I motion that we receive and file and set the work session for Monday, July 1st at 5:30 p.m. at the Historic Federal Building Council Chambers.
Second.
Got a motion by Sprank, second by Resnick. Working for everybody right before a council meeting there. Other than we probably shouldn't end action items on item number 13. Come up with either one less or one more. All right. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Farber. Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Next are council member reports.
All right. Reports, anybody?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Sprank.
I just want to let the community know that there's going to be a unique art unveiling at Audubon School tomorrow at 3 o'clock. What it is an artist, I helped an artist acquire some of the old Comiskey Park playground equipment, and the kids at Audubon kind of designed it. And so the artist made it. So 3 o'clock tomorrow if anybody wants to show up. Hopefully it's not too hot.
It'll be hot. Go anyway. Excellent. Thanks, Mr. Sprank. Yeah, Ms. Farber.
So speaking of hot, I was in 100-degree Sacramento last week on behalf of the National League of Cities Summer Board meeting, and I attended the Technology Committee meetings. And the theme was cybersecurity for the week. And we got to visit the Operations Center for the entire state of California, which was very enlightening to see all the equipment. But most importantly, they had a cybersecurity training center. And at the time we were there, they were training the Coast Guard. And I understand, based on what they had indicated to us, that they also provide training nationwide, and especially on the western region of the contiguous states to California. So just food for thought for that. And we learned a lot about cybersecurity policies with insurance carriers, as well as potential roadmaps for the city to consider. So it was very worthwhile.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Farber. Yeah, Mr. Resnick.
Thank you. Many times I have a council report about my visit to a community event, but this is a community event visited me. And so I just wanted to talk about the bear in Dubuque. And so I was told by a neighbor that the bear came by our back door that we share with others, and that this neighbor did not even know there was a bear in Dubuque, was totally surprised, and of course left it alone. But it got me very interested, and I started looking about what other cities do. And if this is a one-time event, okay, but it seems to be something that increases. What if it's 5? What if it's 10? What do we do? What do other cities do for human-bear conflict management? Because these are wild animals, and generally I don't want to say we should fear, have an unnatural fear, but they are wild animals and somewhat not sure what they're going to do. And I did hear a citizen say, it's all fun and games until somebody gets hurt. And I know we're all concerned about our citizens here. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know what I heard our citizens talking about. They didn't want to go on a walk. They didn't want to go anywhere because they thought they might. They didn't know where the bear was. And it appeared different places, and there was no reporting. It's not like you could go on the new website here at the city of Dubuque and say, oh, that beeping thing, that's the bear or something, so I can take a walk. Anyway, it's something to think about. So I did a lot of study, and there's a website called bearsmart.com that talks about what communities can do. Again, I don't know where the bear is now. Maybe it's south of here. That's what they said would probably happen, but they didn't predict it would come to my back door and all the different places that it has been. So anyway, I have nothing to say except the report and some possibilities we might want to think about at a later time because I think it's important. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor, could I ask a question? What was that website you said?
Well, the one I have, the one that is most concise is BearSmart, BEARSmart.com. And it talks about, bringing the community together. Not everybody, it's a great newspaper, but not everybody gets a TH or listens to our radio. And so there's a lot of people that were, what would they do? They are surprised. If you know a bear is there and you listen to how you can deal with it in a good way, but it's the surprise that I don't think we can stop. And so anyway, I'd love for us to consider some different solutions. Thank you.
Thank you for those thoughts, Mr. Resnick. Yeah, Ms. Roussel.
On Saturday, I was able to attend the the Juneteenth celebration down at Jackson Park, and it was great to see how many people were there and all of the booths. And I just want to say thanks to the Multicultural Family Center for their hard work in bringing that all together. And afterwards, I went up to Flora Park to the second annual Dog Expo, where again, there was a good turnout of people and dogs and fun treats for both. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks, Ms. Rousseau. Yep, Ms. Bethel.
Sure. So the Juneteenth event was wonderful. I'm so grateful to the Multicultural Family Center, but all of the organizations that came down and volunteered their time to create their own booth and inform people of the services that are available through their organizations. Just a great community building. And there was free boba. And so that was the kid table central for my family. I wanted to mention, I had spoke of it earlier, the GDDC Talent Dubuque Luncheon earlier this month, and it was a great interactive, I don't know how many interns were there, but I would venture to say 200. It was great. The turnout was amazing. Local businesses who have interns allowed them to come and be part of the day, and really it was to show them about Dubuque. We had information brought to us by Carrie Kolker from Travel Dubuque about this is what our community has to offer. And then there was a lot of interactive questions with the audience and timing and answer to learn more. And I think GDDC is going to summarize the results. But one word map that was created that I wanted to share, it was, what one word or phrase would you use to describe the greater Dubuque region? So some of them included fun, cool, home, interesting, small town, big town, awesome, vibrant, old, welcoming, Mississippi, hilly, great, dope, unique, flourishing. And so as much as sometimes I think we feel that recruiting is going to be uphill for us forever, what we're doing, after I walked out of that room, I felt really good about what our community is doing and the perception of young people related to where we're at right now. So I wanted to share that because it felt really positive to me regarding momentum of our community. Thank you.
Appreciate that. That report was dope. So we know, yeah, Mr. Jones.
A lot going on. The mayor, you'll probably talk about, he spoke to a group at the Tri-State Mayor's lunch or breakfast. But because he was doing that, he sent me down here to do a different thing. And Friday the 7th, we had a group of about 20 veterans of the U.S. Navy and U.S. Marines that served on the USS Dubuque that came to this room to visit their bell that's out in front. And every one of them pointed out that the bell needs polishing because they used to have to do it every single day. And he said, you ought to probably have half a can of brass polish next to that bell after you get it polished as part of the permanent display. But these folks were in town for a 3-day reunion, and about 20 veterans plus spouses and friends that came along. They were just having the best time in Dubuque. They were absolutely loving it here. They said that the people they were running into were extraordinarily friendly, that the place, they couldn't believe how clean the city is. And I hear that a lot, that particular one a lot, and just love hearing it. And it made it extra special for them. About Tuesday, I got thinking, hey, wait a minute. Walt Pregler was mayor when this thing was commissioned in 1988, and the city sent him out to where the boat was being launched and commissioned. And in 2011, when it was decommissioned, I was on the council, and we sent Walt again with Mayor Buell to the decommissioning. And so I called Walt and said, what are you doing Friday morning? So he came down with me. And so I had the mayor of Dubuque from the time it was commissioned and the ex-mayor of Dubuque who had been there for the decommissioning. And man, did he have stories. We thought this would be about a 20-minute thing. We were in here for 2 hours just having a ball, having a good conversation. And a lot of good interviews that Walt gave, sitting in a chair up here in front of the flags too, that'll turn up on City Channel. So, sorry, Mr. Mayor, you got hosed on that one. You should have sent me to the chamber. That evening, I got to go to the library on Friday the 7th for a ribbon cutting of a piece of public art that sits on the Locust Street side of the library. It's called Citizens, and Gail Chavanel put it together. I love Gail because her dad had the good sense to hire me to come to work as a firefighter for the city of Dubuque when he was city manager. And he did a lot of other good things. He was wrong about gambling. He said, "Oh, we don't want that in Dubuque, but look what it's done for us at the casinos." But he was right about a lot of other things. He was an awful kind guy. Anyhow, it's a really neat sculpture, and if you haven't seen it, go down and see it. And of course, there was an art at your library reception with some photography inside. $200 and a picture later, we were headed home. But it was a pretty great night at the evening. And a number of us were at the Telegraph Herald at their open house and ribbon cutting on the 11th. You get a lot of experience with adaptive reuse and hearing about. They did an adaptive reuse of an occupied structure and didn't lose a day of operations getting their paper out. They've pretty much renovated the building. They've got everybody in modern space on the ground floor. Of course, when that building was built, you needed great, big, mechanical, dirty, filthy things to make a newspaper. And now you don't need most of them anymore. You can do it with laptops and modern presses and things. So they really impressed me. They kind of always do. And I don't always agree with what they write, but that's okay because thank God they're writing it. I've got a good friend in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. He's a retired funeral director. And every time he's sitting at my kitchen table visiting, he picks up the Telegraph Herald and he says, "I can't believe you still got this." Their local paper was taken over by one of the big conglomerates. And basically they get something that looks like the Dubuque Advertiser with a couple week-old stories once a week now. And he's sitting here saying, "Wow, you got 4 sections of stuff and it's real news." And as the publisher pointed out, he says, "Don't look to us to see what's happening in Gaza. If you want to know what's happening in this room, we're writing it."
Yeah.
And we're telling the story, and I appreciate it. So really neat event that they had.
Yeah.
Hope I didn't take away your thunder because you probably
No, that we've gotten down to the only other thing that nobody else has mentioned that I'll make sure that I mention for a report. But I mean, Chris, you're sitting right here as a member of the TH to speak to that. I mean, seriously, the fact that a reporter is still sitting in this room to watch what's going on, it doesn't happen in most places. So I really appreciated that event. I really did appreciate what the TH has done and just Woodward Communications in general, that building. It's amazing. I hope everybody gets a chance to see it. The only other thing that I'll mention that nobody else has mentioned so far is I was invited by, it was kind of a combination of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, Bloomberg Philanthropies, and a group called Results for America to give a presentation on our SMART grant that we received for the Streets program. Talking a lot about artificial intelligence, and that was the scope of the discussion. The SMART grant is difficult to get. People really wanted to know, how do you do it? So it was just me and one other mayor who had, actually one other mayor and then a representative from the city of Las Vegas talking about multiple different things. We are talking about moving cars. Las Vegas is talking about moving people. So it was really an interesting discussion to be able to have, but I was proud to be able to represent Dubuque in that webinar that was held last week. So that was the only other thing that I did that hasn't already been mentioned. So, all right, well, we're still working. We have a closed session, so I will take a motion, please.
Sure. I move that the City Council go into closed session in accordance with Chapter 21.5 of the Code of Iowa to discuss pending litigation and purchase or sale of real estate.
Second.
Got a motion by Jones, second by Roussel. For the record, the attorney the City Council will consult with on the issues to be discussed in closed session is City Attorney Krenna Brumwell. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Sprank.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. We are in closed session.